Alright, back on? I think we're back on. I can't really tell. Alright, back on? Alright. Definitely seems to be taking a while. Oh, there it goes. Okay, I apologize for what just happened, folks. For some reason or another, not only did my mouse start to act up, but then my PC started to spin around with its fan really hard. And now the frame rate is dropping so many times I don't even know how much lower I can lower it. The stream is highly unstable. I don't know how much that's going to affect us in the long run, but, you know, we'll see what happens. I really don't know why my mouse decided to do that. I guess it's just the bad case of the Mondays, so to speak. Just gotta let everyone know that stream is still set up. Alright. Now, is this going to give me any more problems? Is the $1,000,000 question I want to know. Survey says, yeah, it still wants to give me issues. I really need to upgrade this thing, but I don't have any money. Story of my life. Story of my life. But I'm going to push through it. Because, hell, if I'm not going to have a good time, just because life decides to say, screw you, swordsman, you don't deserve to have fun, you deserve to have pain. And to that I say, you must consult with my secretary. Is what I would say if I had a secretary. Alright. Let's see if my game will game. This is Umineko week, and I'll be damned if I have to go through another lifetime with this. Well, I can hear it. Alright. Just gonna give it there. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Tiny screen. And there we go. Right where we left off. So, when we left off, we found out that Kraus, the eldest of the siblings, was in the midst of trying to screw over his siblings of their inheritance after they all talked to him about his shady business dealings and possibly siphoning out money from his father without his consent. So they tried to pressure him into saying that they want their money now and they'll keep their mouth shut. And they actually demanded a 10% up front. But then Kraus pulled a switcheroo on them and said, oh, so that's how it's going to be. Well, I already know why you want that money gone. Because you all have a lot of business that needs to be taken care of. So, with that in mind, it seems like he's playing his hand pretty well and controlling all that's happened around him. Which is leaving me to believe that he already knew about this beforehand, and now he's convincing his siblings to help him hunt for the family gold given to them by the witch Beatrice. On that note, they also found out that their father is trying to get them to find it while they are currently trying to solve the riddle of the whole thing. Because there was actually a riddle underneath that portrait of Beatrice. And he basically wants everyone to participate in this for the sole purpose of being able to see her again. Why he would play that risk? Well, in his mind, he believes that adding a huge risk into something that will go against him will turn the favor to him, in that 1 in a million chance that magic will occur and his miracle will be fulfilled. A bit of a gamble, I'll admit, but it's definitely an interesting one. So with that in mind, let's continue on our adventure and see how the kids are enjoying their time on the beach. Which, honestly, is not a bad idea on how to spend your day. Especially when your parents are doing nothing but bickering all day. Ah! Flashbang. And look at that sky. That beautiful, pixelated, blurry photograph sky. That just screams peacefulness, don't it? Not a bad view, I will admit. So, on the 10th twilight, the journey ends, and you reach the Golden Land. You really are diligent, Maria. You did a good job writing all this down. Ooh. I forgot a lot, so I always write things down. Mama told me to. There was a notebook inside the handbag Maria was always carrying around, and Beatrice's epitaph was copied onto it. Thanks to that, we were all able to challenge the puzzle of the epitaph while walking down the beach. Jessica and the rest have already tried to solve it several times, and had already gotten bored with it. However, since this was a first for me, I was so excited that I couldn't stop. It really tickled my sense of adventure. Let's start with the first line. Behold the sweet fish running through my beloved sweet fish river running through my beloved hometown. Where was grandfather's hometown again? I heard that before the war, the Ushiramiya family had a mansion near Odawara. Which makes you want to know which Sweetfish River flows through Odawara, right? Yeah, because that's the river would be the starting place. Anyone searching for the Golden Land would head down in there and search for the key. What's this river in Odawara? Does it have sweet fish swimming in it? If you're looking for sweet fish in Odawara, it had to be in Hayakawa. It's famous for its mountain stream fishing. Ooh, I hate fish. Maria, you'll understand when you're a bit older. Lick, 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 salty roasted sweet fish. Yummy. Even though we just ate, I'm getting hungry again. Shall I bring you a biscuit? Huh? Oh, sorry, that's not what I meant. Don't mind it. Shannon-chan was faithfully keeping us company since she didn't have any afternoon chores for a while. I would have thought that, since she's a servant, accompanying us would force her to take care of us and tire her out. But that didn't seem to be the case for her. On the contrary, she seemed to be enjoying joining in on a conversation with people close to her age. When I asked her, I heard that she was the sort of worker whose room and board were supplied by her employer. So normally, the only person close to her age was Jessica. Yeah, I can imagine how that might get pretty dull. Okay, so I get that in the sweetfish-filled river near Odawara's in Hayakawa. In that case, we gotta go down it. Do you find anything if you head down Hayakawa River? If you follow it downstream, you'll arrive at the ocean. Of course you reach the mouth of the river, and the third line of the epitaph was, "As you travel down it, you will see a village." By the way, since long ago the mouth of rivers have been key points in transportation, and large cities tend to be built there. That be the next checkpoint. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I was thinking about Dark Souls for a minute. That Onion Knight haunts my memories all the time. Well, I wouldn't say it haunts my memories. More like he is in close company in those memories. And yes, one day I will be doing a Dark Souls livestream. And that will be the day you see me lose my mind. That's a pretty good theory. Just like you guessed, there's an old city there that was very prosperous in ancient times. And that's where Odawara Castle is. I think I might have gone to Odawara Castle on a field trip once. It really was a wonderful castle. Yeah, I also went there. Even though I live in a Western-style house, it's true that Japanese people feel calmer with a Japanese layout and such. Ooh, castles are boring. Theme parks are better. Ooh. You know what, Maria? I can't help but agree. I see. Okay. If we find the gold, the great Battler Sama will generously reserve a whole theme park for a day and let you play in it. Still, Odawara Castle, huh? The hidden gold of Odawara Castle. Oh! It's actually starting to sound pretty good. Well, we figured that much 2 years ago. The village down the river where the sweetfish swim in Odawara. We figured it was probably somewhere near Odawara Castle. Then the problem is the next line. Okay, let's see where Battler's strange reasoning can take him. Jessica grinned broadly. She seemed to be implying that she would have solved the puzzle long ago if it was that easy. Damn it! I'll definitely find it and keep all of it for myself. The fourth line. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. I don't know what it means by the two, but anyway, the shore... What does it mean by the shore? No, wait. Is there any place near there with shore or Kishi in their name? I've heard there's a place called Hosoka Kishi in Odawara. Huh. Wow. You sure know a lot about it. What could that mean? Shannon-chan, are you trying to solve the riddle and get the gold too? That makes us rivals. It's not like I'm interested in the gold. It's just that George-sama told me about it before. And that's because we all reached the same conclusions 2 years ago. We even went to the trouble of laying out a map and looking it up. It was about 5 kilometers to the north of Odawara. We definitely found a place called Sokakishi there. However, after that we got stuck. The 5th line doesn't say where the key is hidden in that place. Maria-chan, could you read it for us? There sleeps the key to the Golden Land. Ooh! I could read it! Sokakishi is probably, like, really large, and there wasn't ever any houses built in there by the Ushiromiya family. Not much we can do to find a key in such a vast area without any hints. You're right. And without that key, can't advance to the next line. George Aniki, what kind of place is Sokakishi? Let's see. I've never been there before, so I don't really know. But according to the map, it's in the mountains. I'm pretty sure it was at the base of Mount Asama. Something doesn't feel right. You'd expect a riddle pointing to the way into the hidden gold be a bit more exact. I get the feeling that even the part about Sokakishi was a mistake. Well, I think it could be Sokakishi. It could be talking about some house that grandfather lived in when he was a kid that we don't know about. After all, the line mentioned his beloved hometown. Shannon, you served grandfather alcohol and stuff lots of times, right? Has he ever talked to you about his past? The master almost never speaks of the past. However, he talks of the Great Kanto earthquake as though it was someone else's story. So he may have been living far away from the Kanto area. The Ushiromiya family may have been living in Odawara, but not all the branch families were. Grandfather often called himself part of a branch family, the least connected to the successor. And that means the beloved hometown might not even be Odawara after all. I never heard anything about grandfather's hometown, and I doubt he'd actually tell me if I asked or anything. If the so-called beloved hometown isn't referring to the Ushiromiya family's roots, then the Odawara theory is wrong from the beginning. Of course, that doesn't completely remove the possibility that it was Sokakishi. For example, perhaps he lived in Odawara when he was very young, but then moved far away later. I don't understand what you're all talking about. Maria had been completely left out in the conversation, and she now sat puffing out her cheeks in boredom. I think that's cute when they get bored of that. Excuse me while I take a bite of chicken curry. Sorry about that. One of the drawbacks about streaming is you hardly find any time to get a bite to eat. You really work up an appetite after streaming for so long. And how? Note to self. When streaming, make sure you're eating a large meal. Moving on. So basically, if we can't even agree on the starting point for this dice game of gold, we're totally stuck. But wait. After the first 5 lines, the thing we end up finding is a key, right? Even if you don't have a key, it's always possible to bust through a door. Can we just skip the first 5 lines and then start figuring out the rest? Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Oh well, we were just wasting time anyway. Let's hear the rest of Badler's reasoning. But the next part, it gets dark really fast. Shannon-chan frowned slightly. After looking at Maria's notebook to recall what was written there, yeah, I was forced to agree. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. It sure does get horrible really quick. On the second twilight, it says to tear apart the 2 who are close. Does that mean to make them break up off their loving relationship? Or does that mean to literally tear them apart? I don't know, but either way, it's pretty disgusting. Even if we set the second twilight line aside, it mentions 6 people for the first twilight. Then 5 people for the 4th through 8 twilights. So at least 11 people must be sacrificed. Ooh. They're sacrificed to revive Beatrice. I see. Sacrifices to restore the witch. Yeah, that's what it means. Near the end, the witch will be revived on the 9th twilight. That last part is guaranteed. On the 9th twilight, the witch shall be revived and none shall be left alive. So everyone will die in the end. And after that, the 10th twilight is the goal line. Not sure how you're supposed to reach the Golden Land if everyone's dead by then. Depending on how you interpret it, the traveler who holds the key may or may not be included in the none shall be left alive part. But at the end, there's something pretty interesting. After reaching the goal, the witch gives out 4 treasures. 1 shall be all the gold. The problem is the next one. It says the dead souls will be resurrected, right? Doesn't that sound like it means everyone who died in the earlier lines? If you put it that way, then the part about reviving lost love might refer to the pair torn apart on the second twilight. That's right. And the 4th one refers to the 9th twilight. The 4th treasure is putting the witch revived on the 9th twilight to sleep. If we put a happy spin on all this, it'll be hectic with people dying and breaking up all over the place, but it'll all be made right in the end. The awakened witch will sleep again, and everything will be like it was at the start, except with a huge pile of gold. Something tells me it's not that simple. The witch must be pretty busy, what with all the killing, reviving, breaking up, and reuniting people. Not to mention waking up and sleeping. Sheesh. Just when the tale of the hidden gold was getting interesting, it all gets pretty dubious once the witch starts showing up. too true. I laughed along with Jessica. After all, the idea of the witch was just too ridiculous. Of course, once we started laughing like that, Maria, who believed in the witch, got angry. Ugh. The witch is incredible. She can do anything with magic. Even kill. Even bring people back to life. Even give love, even take it. She can fly in the sky, can become invisible, can make gold and bread out of nothing. Ugh. 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 Dang. My bad. We were just joking. Jessica apologized, sticking out her tongue, but Maria didn't accept it. She grabbed her notebook back out of my hands and, opening to some other pages, she tried to prove that the witch existed. Those pages had colorful drawings of witches on them, which we can't see for some reason, and well conveyed the fantastical image Maria had of witches. It wasn't the normal, sinister image of a crooked-nosed hag flying on a broom, but a dreamlike person with unnatural powers who could do anything and wore a beautiful dress. It was just what you'd expect from an imaginative young girl. Flitting through the sky, crossing a rainbow, dancing around all the night with a teacup and teapot that would never get empty no matter how much you poured out of it. With all the flourish of her staff, the stars in the sky would become candy and pour down, and flowers that produced sweets would bud up by the roadside. To Maria, witches were the only concept that could embody the magical dream that captivated her. As she grew older, it was the last remaining thing that could give richness to her dull and plain life. That's why Maria believed in witches. She didn't want that dream of hers to be tarnished. That's why she didn't want anyone to tarnish the epitaph, which affirmed the existence of witches. You know, I think that's a normal reaction for kids. When we're young, we like to imagine that a lot of these fantastical beings that we watch in cartoons, comic books, movies, we like to think that it's all possible to be like that. You know, when you get older, you're told that you can be whatever you want to be, and that dreams do come true. Then, as time goes on, you find out that it's not always that simple, and certain ideas are just that, ideas. I think in this case, Maria is at a point where she wants to keep believing because she's still a child. Battler, Jessica, George, they're all already grown out of that phase where they stop believing in all that stuff. So really, Maria is like the one bit of innocence that the group has, because everyone else has pretty much no longer had that anymore. And it's kind of sad in a way, but also bittersweet in some ways. Because the witch named Beatrice is Maria's dream. To Maria-chan, the epitaph isn't a guide to the hidden gold, but magic to revive the witch. So it was the single link between Maria and the witch. Maria was very angry and clung to George Aniki. Jessica and I scratched our heads and apologized. It might not be possible to smooth things over again like the time she got mad in front of the portrait. Maria didn't seem to willingly be easily consoled. Unlike Jessica and I, who hung our heads wondering what to do, Shannon-chan timidly opened her mouth. Maria-sama, did you know? There's an old ghost story about Beatrice that has been passed down among the servants. Ooh? Yeah, that's right. Shannon, tell us about it. I don't really know, but It's apparently pretty famous among the servants. What is this? A ghost story? Yes. It seems it's a story from before we were born. I also heard it from my mother. Yes. It has been passed down since the time of the mansion's construction. The servants of that time whispered that the mansion had two masters, one of the day and one of the night. The tale that Shannon told us was just like a typical campfire ghost story. If there was a forest with a witch living inside it, then of course, the witch would come pay the mansion a visit from time to time. At some point, this ghost story naturally sprouted up between the servants. When people do the rounds a second time to check the doors, windows, and locks that were supposedly closed, they find some of them left open. Lights that were supposed to be off were turned on, and lights that were supposed to be on went out. Things left lying around would disappear, and things appear when no one had any memory of putting them there. When any of these things happened, the old servants would say that the witch had visited the mansion invisible and was playing pranks. Ooh. See? She exists. Beatrice exists. Yeah, she exists. Long ago, it was always right before leaving for school that I wasn't able to find my bag and stuff. Maria puffed out her chest with an ooh, as though this was final proof of the witch's existence. If I opened my mouth now, Maria probably would be hurt again, so I didn't. Yeah, it's always a good idea knowing when to keep your mouth shut. I mean, you hear this kind of story everywhere. Depending on the place, they might blame it on a dwarf or an elf. The only difference is that they called it a witch on this island. Of course, walking around a vast, elegant mansion at night would be a little unsettling. It's an island devoid of people. Since the mansion was so drafty, walking around the night of a thunderstorm would definitely be eerie. In addition, some servants have also seen will-o'-the-wisps and glittering butterflies dancing around. Kenan-kun also saw something like that when he was patrolling one night. And recently, you often hear servants talking about strange footsteps heard inside the mansion near midnight. We've whispered together that Beatrice-sama in the portrait sometimes makes herself invisible and walks through the mansion. It happened a while ago, but even I have heard footsteps while patrolling at night that resemble these stories. Whew, that's scary. But there's nothing to be afraid of. Beatrice-sama is another ruler of this mansion, separate from the master. So there's no need to be unnaturally afraid. If you respect her, I hear she won't do anything bad. However, she can be quite terrifying if you don't respect her, right? Correct. I've heard that just before I began working here, someone who spoke badly of Beatrice-sama fell down the stairs and quit after receiving a large injury to their back. Because of that, there was a rumor between the servants that Beatrice-sama's anger had been brought down upon this person. Ooh. Anger will definitely be brought down on Battler and Jessica. Ooh. I'm sorry? I don't want her anger brought down upon me. I apologize, Maria. Of course, I also apologize to the witch. I'm sorry, Beatrice-sama. Please forgive an outsider's nonsense. I'll apologize as well. I'm sorry, Beatrice-sama. Will the witch be able to forgive us now? Don't know. Witches are fickle, so they forgive when they want to, and don't when they don't. Ooh! That's no good. Maria-chan, isn't there some kind of good luck charm that could prevent Battler-kun and Jessica-chan from suffering Beatrice's Sama's wrath? Maybe something that can block against magic? By relying on Maria, who was proud of knowing the most about witches, George was trying to revive her self-esteem. Once again, I've got to admire his ability to calm kids down. After taking a moment to cross her arms and seriously ponder whether it might be a charm that could save us, she started flipping through the pages in her notebook. I thought it was just a scribbled diary, but there also seemed to be quite a few pages that looked like they came from a book on black magic. Maria solemnly considered a group of these pages, which contained things that looked like magic circles. Apparently, Grandfather wasn't the only one with a black magic hobby. When Maria finally found what she was looking for, she snapped the notebook shut and threw her into her handbag. She then began fishing through the bag's contents. There seemed to be various jumbled up things in there. After a while, she took out various pieces of junk, although they were probably important magical items to Maria, and repeatedly threw them back in, saying they were all wrong. It was all a little humorous, just like when Doraemon took out the wrong tool. Oh, Doraemon. Yeah, you guys never heard of Doraemon? Very funny. Also, what's going on with the text box? Finally, she seemed to discover what she was looking for. With a face that was unimaginably cheery when compared to the intense expression she had worn until now, she held those out to Jessica and me. Ooh! I grabbed it and saw it was a very cheap-looking charm. It looked like a bracelet made from a plastic rosary, with a scorpion-themed medal attached. Damn. That's pretty metal, actually, Maria. I can imagine her getting into punk rock very soon. Haven't you ever seen those cheap Zodiac-themed accessories? The kind you might win in the crane games at an arcade. It really looks like something like that. There were 2 of them. Probably one for me and one for Jessica. However, the very fact that there were 2 of them made them feel even more cheap, manufactured goods, making it pretty hard to think of them as magical items. You're giving these to me and Battler? Ooh! With these charms, you don't even need to worry about Beatrice, because scorpions had the power to ward off magic. Really? I didn't know scorpions could do that. Neither did I. And I run into a lot of scorpions in the desert. Ooh, Battler doesn't believe. Ooh. I said too much and angered Maria again. Maria took out her notebook again, pointing out various pages as she went on and on about how the scorpion had incredible holy power, that it had been used in magic-repelling magical circles since ancient times. That sounds pretty in-depth for an 8-year-old girl. I've heard that from some other of the young servants. Something about how the scorpion is drawn in as a magic-repelling symbol in sorcery. Huh. Really? Ooh. The scorpion protects against bad magic and calamity. An emerald brings peace to the heart. Therefore, its effects are twofold. Ooh. It's true. The scorpion wraps around the emerald and protects it. Yes, that certainly sounds like it worked well. I really wanted to make fun of those worthless-looking charms. But as I watched Maria explaining with all sorts of her heart, and realized she had found them for our sakes, I started to feel like it might actually work, even if it was just some prize from a game center. The material quality of the charm didn't matter. What mattered was the strength of her feelings. Even I don't think of myself as the sort of loser who'd laugh at something like that. Okay, thank you. I apologize to Beatrice-sama, but even if I do end up getting cursed, I'll be safe now thanks to Maria's charm. Right, Jessica? Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Maria. Ugh. Wear it on your arm when you want your heart to be at peace. Put it in your wallet and your money won't decrease. If you hang it from a doorknob, bad things can't get in. It's really convenient charm. What an incredible effect. If Maria-sama gives it her confident seal of approval, then it surely must be reliable. Shannon-chan clapped her hands together and Maria stuck out her chest. She was totally in a good mood again. It's probably best if we let her lead the conversation a bit longer, if it'll keep her in such a good mood. Come to think of it, she looked a little bit bored when we were getting excited about the hidden gold, probably because she couldn't keep up. While eating the cookies Kumasawa-san had baked, Jessica and I asked Maria this and that about black magic. Maria happily chatted away in response to our questions. Each time, George Aniki and Shannon-chan would act surprised or chime in. The clouds in the sky grew darker and darker, but we cousins really enjoyed communicating freely after a year of separation. Wow, a whole year without them, huh? Did I just feel a drop in my forehead? Huh? I wonder. Uh-oh. As George Aniki rubbed his forehead, he looked up at the sky. Considering the color of the sky and the dampness in the air, it wouldn't have been odd for a raindrop to hit him. The wind also seemed to have grown a bit stronger. Ooh? I didn't feel a drop. Only I didn't. Ooh. Don't worry, neither did I. Anyway, I'm sure it'll rain so much tonight that everyone will get to feel plenty of raindrops. And that's right. Maybe we should head back soon. Shannon-chan looked down at her watch. It was probably well into the evening by now. Is it time for you to ready to return to work? Yes. Thank you very much for allowing me to enjoy some time together with all of you. Tell Kumasawa-san thanks for the cookies. Okay, everyone, help out with the cleanup. Shannon-chan declined our help, saying that this was a servant's job. But picking up dropped forks before the waitress has to be pretty much my purpose in life. We folded up the blanket, gathered up the trash, and helped clean everything up. Ugh! The trash is getting away. I won't let it escape. Grab it before Maria does. I'll grab it. Maria, don't get your shoes wet. You'll get in trouble. To Maria, chasing after some trash sent flying by the powerful winds was just another game. By the time we finished, the wind was blowing pretty strongly. Probably a good time to head back. You all helped me out a lot. Thank you very much. It looks like you really are out of time. It's okay if you head back first. George Aniki perceived from her hurried appearance that very little of her free time was left. Genji-san's very strict about time. If you don't show up where you're supposed to be at the right time, I bet he'll be pissed. We'll see you later. Do your best with your work. Yes. Then, if you'll excuse me. After making a respectful bow, Shannon-chan ran towards the rose garden. Okay, let's head back to the guest house. We can watch TV or something and relax a little. Ooh, wanna watch TV? Wanna watch TV? Ugh. Then it's decided. Let's all head back and watch TV together. Maria, who wasn't done having fun, agreed once television was mentioned. We climbed up the gentle stairs and returned to the rose garden. Man, this is a long flight of stairs. The wind had grown very strong, and the roses shook throughout the garden like ripples of water. This might be our last chance to see these beautiful roses. I'll bet tonight's typhoon ruins them. These roses might be done in by tonight's wind. You're right. Still, I think the roses were pretty good luck. After all, they got to welcome all of you before the typhoon. All flowers lose their petals eventually. But that means we can admire them even more when they're in bloom. That's right. Maria, burn this image into your eyes. After this moment, they're the best roses of the year. Ooh, burned into my eyes. Right then, Maria suddenly clapped her hands. It looked like she remembered something. My rose. The typhoon will send it flying. Oh, you mean that sad-looking rose George Arneke made with a ribbon? Maria apparently remembered where the rose was. She ran at full speed. The rest of us followed her. Where was it again? I'm sure it was here around somewhere. We searched everywhere around the area, but it was only a single flower among all the roses after all. Even though we knew it was somewhere close by, we weren't able to find it. The winds making up the typhoon's front lines made roses throughout the garden undulated. It was almost like it was teasing us by making the location of Maria's rose impossible to find. Maybe it wasn't here. Let's try spreading out a bit in our search. Sounds good. Let's go for the strength of numbers. What's up, Maria? As we made a split up in search, Maria tugged on my jacket with an unhappy face. You could tell that she didn't want us to leave that spot. What is it? What's wrong? My rose is here. It's here. But it's actually not, right? Maybe it was on the other side of the flower bed. If we all look, we'll find it fast, okay? It's here. My rose is here. Look for it. Look for it. Maria stomped her feet in irritation. She pointed at the spot and said it was definitely there, but in actuality it wasn't. Even so, Maria got mad when we said we were going to search elsewhere. We were at a loss for what to do. For a while, we had to stay near Maria and pretend to search through that rose thicket. It's not easy pleasing a child. Not here. Not here. Not here. Maybe she was saying it should be here, but isn't. Maria became increasingly irritated. Oh, man. Maria's really losing her temper. Sometimes Maria starts to really care about really pointless stuff. If she gets what she wants, that's okay, but you can't find something that isn't there. That's not good. Just when we were at a loss what to do, Maria called out in a loud voice. Mama! Oh! We could see Aunt Rosa in the direction Maria was waving her hand. Maybe she wanted to look at the garden one more time before the typhoon came in. Or maybe she had some business at the guest house. Aunt Rosa was coming from the mansion. She quickly noticed her daughter's voice and came over. My. What's happened, everyone? Are you looking for something? Look for it. Mama, you look for my rose too. Your rose? We found an unhealthy rose around here and marked it. We tied a candy wrapper around it. But, Maria, if I remember correctly, it was growing right in front and stood out, didn't it? Unless it grew legs and ran off somewhere, it must be somewhere else. Maybe you remembered it wrong? It is here. It is here. Battler doesn't believe. How many times do I have to tell you to stop saying ooh before you'll understand? Mama will look for it, so stay quiet. I've never seen Aunt Rosa being anything other than kind and gentle, so her anger really surprised me a bit. Sometimes parents aren't exactly what they appear to be. Aunt Rosa began searching as well, so we went along with her for the time being, but we were already more than sure it wasn't around here. So it didn't take long for Aunt Rosa to realize that too. The rose isn't here. Did you mistake this place for somewhere else? There are so many roses around. That's wrong. It is here. Mama doesn't believe. I already believed you, and I looked hard for it, didn't I? But it isn't here. But it is here. It is here, but it isn't. Then someone must have ripped it out. Anyway, stop saying ooh. Who ripped out my rose? Who did it? Give it back. Give it back. How should I know? Stop it. Stop saying ooh. Oh. Aunt Rosa slapped Maria's left cheek with her palm. In that instant, Maria was shocked into silence. Of course, it was only for an instant. When Maria realized that her wish was being rejected, she started yelling even louder. My rose. My rose. Didn't I tell you to stop that weird habit? That is why all the kids in your class make fun of you. Cut it out. Once again, her palm slapped Maria's cheek. This time, she didn't go silent. She choked and started crying and began to bawl in an increasingly loud voice. Aunt Rosa was clearly irritated and lifted her hand once more to shut her daughter up. Aunt Rosa? Now. She's just a little kid, so there's no reason to get so serious. I tried to cut in with a bitter smile, rubbing my hands together. But Aunt Rosa glared at me with a serious face, and I realized I should have stayed out of this. I'm sorry, but could the rest of you go back in your room for a bit? I need to have a little talk with Maria. Oh, nobody believes in my rose. Even though it was right here. Oh, look for it. Look for it. Here, it was here. Oh. But it's not here. So you must have confused this place for somewhere else, right? It is here. It's definitely here. Then it disappeared. Give it up. Why? Why did it disappear? Why? Oh, I don't know that. So stop saying ooh. Aunt Rosa once again raised her hand, overcome by emotion, and slapped Maria's cheek. It was strong enough to knock Maria over. Hey, Aunt Rosa. Even if she's your daughter, violence isn't the answer. I stepped between them to protect Maria, who was still on the ground crying ooh. I knew that as an outsider, problems between parent and child were none of my business. But I wasn't brought up to be silently observed something like this. Don't you think it's weird, Battler-kun? Aren't there any girls at your school who mutter ooh? Well, I am in high school, but for an elementary schooler, I think saying ooh is pretty cute. Cute? Saying ooh is cute? Cute? My careless words seemed to have earned me Aunt Rosa's wrath. She grabbed my collar with a terrifying expression. Don't say such nonsense. Don't you know how old Maria is? She's 9. She's a 4th grader, not a kindergartner. But she still makes that sound during class. Don't you get it? Don't you know what they say about this kid when they bully her? Thanks to this weird habit, she still hasn't made a single friend. Don't turn your eyes from reality and carelessly call Maria cute. Think more seriously about this kid's future. I told you stop making that sound. Didn't I tell you to stop it? Aunt Rosa struck Maria's quivering head, from which an increasingly unhappy voice was rising. I tried to stop it, but Aunt Rosa pushed me away. My back hit George Aniki. A long time ago, Aunt Rosa also thought of it as nothing more than one of Maria-chan's baby words. But now that it hasn't been fixed even midway through elementary school, she's been worrying about it a lot. How she talks really isn't that big of a deal, right? She'll never make it as an adult if she's like that. So even though it isn't fun to watch, this is a problem between a parent and a child. Well, even I get chewed out by Mom all the time because of how I talk. When they put it that way, maybe even a scene as painful as this isn't something an outsider like me should butt in on. Battler-kun, when you were a kid, didn't you have any bad habits that you couldn't fix and that you got into trouble? Well, 1 or 2. On Parents' Day once, I kept getting yelled at in front of everyone, and it was embarrassing as all hell. Well then, you can understand how the 2 of them must feel right now. But that doesn't make it any less right. I'm sure they don't want us to be here now. Well, someone should be here, like someone called social services. You understand too, don't you, Jessica-chan? I don't think anyone likes to be seen when they're being scolded. Let's go. We'll return to the guest house. Then, after Maria-chan comes back, let's welcome her as if nothing happened. That's probably for the best, isn't it? We thought George Aniki's point was probably a reasonable one, and we may have been eager to use that reasonable-sounding argument as justification to retreat from this heat-rending scene. Jessica and I nodded at George Aniki, and we all left. We called towards Maria, telling her that we were going to head to the guest house, but she didn't seem to hear, and we sort of felt guilty and shameless after saying that. In that case, look by yourself as much as you want. Mama doesn't care. I'll look for it. I'll look for it all by myself, even if Mama doesn't care. Have it your way. After blasting her with those last few words, Rosa spun on her heels and returned to the mansion. Maria probably viewed that as a cold gesture meant to injure. But that wasn't Rosa's intention. It was because of the hand with which she had emotionally struck Maria's cheek. It was still numb. It was because, if she stayed there screaming, she might again be taken over by her emotions and continue slapping her daughter's cheek over and over. After Rosa left, Maria was left alone in the rose garden. The wind began to blow stronger and stronger, and every once in a while, a raindrop would fall on her forehead. However, Maria couldn't leave that place. Not until she found that poor, wilting rose. Man, that's very hard to watch. Very hard to watch. It had definitely been there. Even so, it wasn't. Even though she knew the place and even though it had been there, it wasn't. Maria bitterly stared at the place it was supposed to be and thought frantically. Maybe the angle I'm looking from is wrong. Maybe the height I'm looking down from is wrong. While gazing at a single point, Maria repeatedly stood up, changed her position, and continued to stare. The wind was getting stronger and stronger. But Maria kept looking for that rose in front of the flower bed. Man, that's just sad. Oh, it's starting to rain now. That's not good. Kenzo noticed the sound of the raindrops beating on the window. It seemed to be pouring down thickly. It had begun to rain later than the weather report had predicted. Kenzo approached the window, as if being summoned by the sound of rain. I'm being summoned by the sound of my stomach. Okay, I'm good. I probably should put in a warning for triggers. Trigger warning. Let's see. This game may contain scenes of violence, abuse, depression, and suicide. Viewer discretion is advised. Just gonna pin that up there. That way people will know what they're getting into. So if you guys have to leave, totally understandable. Alright. Let's continue on. The sound of rain is a sound of silence. That sound feels quieter than any silence. It makes humans remember that, in the end, they are alone from the moment they are born to the moment they die. You're late, Beatrice. Were those words directed at the rainy sky? There was no one to be seen in the direction of Kinzo's gaze. Well then, Let us begin. Let us begin our banquet of miracles. This island has now been cut off from the world. Now there are none who can interrupt my ceremony. There are many fitting sacrifices for you. 4 of my children, 3 of their companions, 4 of my grandchildren, me and my guests and my servants. You may devour as many as you please. The key of fate will select the sacrifices in accordance with the demon's roulette. If that roulette chooses me, even I will become your sacrifice. However, because of that, because I bet on such madness, I will most assuredly bring forth a grand miracle. Come, devour to your heart's content. I will achieve victory over that roulette. Yes, I'll put everything on the line. First, I'll return the inheritance of the Ushiromiya family. Accept it. Kenzo tore open the window, ripped the gold ring off his finger, and forcefully threw it away. At that time, the sound of thunder rang out, giving the illusion that lightning had accepted the ring. Huh. That was either incredibly luckily timed, or... And, when you are resurrected, surely I will be the one who stands witness. I will survive until the end, and watch over you as you awaken. So come, Beatrice. Welcome to my banquet. In exchange for all that I have created, show me another miracle just this once. Oh, Beatrice! Oh. Did it work? It is 6 o'clock. A news ticker popped up on the TV, on top of the TV program we were watching. The disaster report told how many municipalities all over were continually sending out rain, flood, and wave warnings. Of course, the raindrop beating harshly on the window were even more convincing. This rain's incredible. Still, when it's raining this hard, it almost feels like it might stop at any moment. You wish. They said the typhoon's moving slow, so it might be like this all day tomorrow. And even a little bad weather stops the boats from coming. It looks like we won't be able to head out on Sunday after all. Just in case, I cleared out the side business from my Monday schedule, and I'm glad I did. Which means, looks like we'll get to skip school Monday. Living on an island's starting to sound pretty good. Kind of think of it, Jessica. You gotta take a boat to school every day, don't you? What do you do when the boat stops running? Do you stay home when it rains and show up late when the wind's blowing, like King Kamehameha? If the boats don't come, I stay home. Still, it's not as good as it sounds. Usually I'm ordered to study by myself, and it's not that fun when someone's standing right behind you watching everything you do. During the rainy season, does the weather ever stay bad for a long time and make you miss a bunch of days in a row? That does happen sometimes. Still, I get a call from my homeroom teacher every single day, who'd sourly guide me on how I should teach myself and what I had to turn in. She can't ask to skip school as easily as your imagining battler could. She's got to follow the rules for people that travel to school by boat and get a good amount of studying done. It'd actually be easier just to go to school. In my own room, I get distracted and can't concentrate. After being made to do nothing but workbooks for several days straight, it's pretty hard to handle all that mental stress. When I get into college, I really just want to go to some dorm and quickly say goodbye to this inconvenient island. Okay. By the way, what do you do when the weather's good in the morning, but then it gets so bad on your way home that the boats are closed? Do you spend the night at school? That actually happens a lot. Because of that, they built some lodgings for people who can't get back to the island they live on. That's where you'd spend the night. Sometimes, when it gets really bad, you can't get back home for a few days at a time. Some commuting to school or work on a train packed to twice its capacity might carelessly think that commuting by boat would be pretty interesting and fun. But it sounds like it comes with troubles of its own. You hear thoughtless tourists say stuff like that all the time. I've had enough of the island life. I really just want to graduate high school and say goodbye to this island. But they're all dorm schools, even for high school, right? Why didn't you choose Nijima, a school of all places? I've wanted to go to one of those from the beginning. But Mom's always going on about how I need to learn manners and discipline as a successor. So I ended up sticking close to home, even for high school. Man, I hate this island. I just want to live in a city. I don't care if it rains or even spears all from the sky, as long as I can move to a city where I can wear casual clothes and sandals, and can get to a convenience store in less than 5 minutes. Hold out just a little longer. Just a bit more and you'll graduate high school, right? I can't wait a little longer. Jessica stretched out and reclined on the sofa. Maybe it was a bad time slot because there weren't any interesting programs on. And we had nothing to do but languidly kill time until we were called for dinner. After that episode, Maria never returned to the cousin room after all. Aunt Rosa probably took her back to the mansion. It had to be pretty boring for Maria, all by herself while the adults had a confusing conversation. We thought we might as well head over to the mansion to see her, but the weather was really awful. And since there wasn't much time until dinner, we stayed where we were. After that time, we heard the sound of a humble knock. Jessica answered. Yes? The preparations for dinner are complete. Please come to the mansion. It was Canon-kun's voice. Did he go all the trouble coming from the mansion in this rain just to get us? Couldn't he have just called us on the telephone? Well, I guess servants at work don't always get to take the most efficient route. Just when I was getting hungry. Let's go. George Haneke turned off the television and stood up. My stomach's been growling for a while. I've always been a huge fan of the main family's dinners. And didn't Goda-san say it was calf steak or something? Oh, I can't wait. Our dinners are always even more fabulous than usual when the family conference comes around. Even I'm looking forward to it. Let's go, let's go. As we left the room, Canon-kun bowed silently and respectfully. Okay, let's go. Is the rain pretty nasty out there? Yes. Take care not to get your garments wet. After seeing the three of us out, Canon-kun peered into the empty room. Wasn't Maria-sama with you? No, she's not. Wasn't she with Aunt Rosa? Uh-oh. Rosa was lying on the sofa in the empty parlor, having fallen asleep before she knew it. She was bearing a burden that children couldn't even imagine. That's why she only needed to let her guard down a little, before the weariness immediately dragged her into the world of sleep. Realizing this, Genji brought a blanket over to her. When he tried to spread it over her, her eyes snapped open as though she'd been shot with electricity. Ugh! Thank you, Genji-san. When she realized that thing had touched her was just a blanket, and that Genji had been considerately giving it to her, she let out a sigh of relief. Did I wake you? My sincerest apologies. No, it's okay. I hadn't planned on sleeping in the first place. What time is it now? When he was asked for the time, Genji checked a pocket watch that he took out of his chest pocket. It is slightly after 6 o'clock. Rosa gave her head a little shake when she realized that not much time had actually passed, even though it felt like she'd slept for ages. Even though she didn't really rested at all, the drowsiness that had enveloped her must have been pretty deep. Thank you. I'll be fine without the blanket. I mustn't sleep in such a strange time. My sense of time has completely been thrown off. The rain has finally started pouring down in its earnest, hasn't it? Rosa finally realized that the peaceful sound that had put her to sleep was actually the rain. That happens to me sometimes. When the rain starts pouring down, I tend to get really sleepy afterwards. I don't know how other people feel, but that's how I do. The wind's blowing hard, too. I wonder if the typhoon's finally here. That's what they said on TV. The typhoon is moving slowly, so they think it'll be like this all day tomorrow. Really? So our last chance to have seen that wonderful rose garden must have already passed by. From the window, what she could see of the rose garden was completely blurred by the wind and the rain. Maria. That's right, what about Maria? I have not seen her. Did she not return to the guest house? Rosa knew her daughter's nature well, so a chill ran down her spine. Maria was stubbornly honest, and if she wasn't ordered to find something that didn't exist, she would look forever and ever, even in the pouring rain. No. The cousin slept before I did, so Maria was alone. Unless someone told her to stop, she'd stay there even until it started raining spears, without even opening an umbrella. How could I have lost control of my emotions and done such a thing? Even though she knew about Maria's simple honesty better than anyone, she once again lost control of her emotions and done something terrible. Maria! Rosa gave Genji a push and ran down the hall. The outside really looked like a typhoon, and the rain was pouring down spectacularly. Maybe because of some aspect of the terrain, the winds were in typhoon class, so an umbrella wouldn't be torn out of one's hands. Even so, it was certainly a windy rain. There was no time to admire the roses being drenched. Anyway, I'm getting pretty worried about Maria. You don't think she's still rebelliously searching for that rose alone, do you? I wonder. Surely she wouldn't do it in this rain. Or at least, I wish I could believe that. But Maria-chan sometimes gets really stubborn and intensely straightforward. We hadn't worried much, thinking that Aunt Rosa had taken her back to the mansion. However, when Kenon-kun had come from the mansion to call us and thought Maria was here, we got a little worried. I did not see her in the mansion, so I was sure she was here. After all, Rosa-sama was taking a nap. You didn't see her on your way over? My apologies. I opened my umbrella and ran as fast as I could, so I did not pay much attention. If he had cut through the rose garden, taking the shortest line between the mansion and the guest house, then he would have just barely missed the place where Maria was looking for her rose. And it was raining hard, too. It certainly would have been possible for Canon-kun to fail to notice her. Instead of arguing around here, it'd be faster just to check it out directly. Anaki, why don't we race over there? Oh, do you think you can beat me now that you've been growing for 6 years? Okay, let's settle this. Go! George, Anaki, and I flew out in the rain. Jessica and Kanan-kun followed us. Maria! If you're there, answer me! Maria! It's Aunt Rosa. Hey, Aunt Rosa! When George Anaki called back, Aunt Rosa jumped at him and grabbed onto him. Where's Maria? Isn't she with you? No, we didn't meet Maria-chan after that. Maria! 6 years ago, Maria was 3 years old. She was a cute, pure kid who just accepted whatever anyone said. But 6 years have passed since then. She was 9 now, and experiencing the ups and downs of life should have been taught her something. But Maria, you're telling me that you're still as innocent and pure as you used to be? Maria! As I circled the rose bed, something white unexpectedly turned and faced me. It was a white umbrella. Maria was crouching down, holding a white umbrella, still searching for that rose. Oh. Her face, which had turned bright red from crying her eyes out, was dirtied with water and mud. It was a truly pitiful sight. Maria, are you still looking? Can't find it. Can't find my rose. Maria had probably been here since the rain started pouring down. Her shoulders were freezing. She looked tired to the bone, but fortunately, she was holding an umbrella and wasn't completely soaked. The umbrella probably came from the handbag Maria would always carried around. Thank goodness. Seriously, thank goodness. Battler-kun! Thank goodness you found her. Maria! I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Aunt Rosa threw her umbrella aside and hugged Maria. Oh, it's not here. My rose isn't here. Oh. I'll look for it with you later, okay? So just put it on hold for today, okay? Put it on hold for today. It looks like Maria still wasn't able to accept it, but she no longer had the energy left to resist. Jessica and Kanan-kun caught up with us. I'll have a towel ready in the mansion immediately. Maria, were you here this whole time? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for being such a bad mother. Aunt Rosa, why don't we head back to the mansion for the time being? If we stay here, Maria will catch a cold. You're right. Maria, let's go. If we don't get you cleaned up, Grandfather will be mad. Oh, hungry. It's already time to eat. You did a good job holding out, Maria. Once the weather gets better, we'll all go searching together again. We couldn't stay in the rain forever. We took Maria with us as we headed back to the mansion. Maria apparently wasn't as worn out as we thought. When she remembered we were having calf steak for dinner, she started chanting, "I'm hungry, I'm hungry, ooh, ooh," and returned to her usual spirited self. Aunt Rosa didn't chide Maria for saying ooh. I see. So she had an umbrella on her. Maria sure is good at packing the right stuff. Ooh. I didn't bring an umbrella. Oh. What? Then, how did you get that white umbrella you're holding? Ooh. I borrowed it. Some caring person must have brought her an umbrella. A normal kid would look for shelter once it started raining, but Maria was too stubborn to give up so easily. So maybe that caring person gave up on telling Maria to find shelter, then decided to at least give her an umbrella. I see. I'll have to thank that person. Who was it? Ooh, Beatrice. The name Maria cheerfully mentioned was that of the Witch's Island. Rosa took a deep breath and asked again, trying to do so in a way that wouldn't damage Maria's good mood. Really? That's wonderful. So who was it? Who brought you that umbrella? Oh, Beatrice. Ooh. And Maria immediately realized that her mother didn't believe her and started crying out unhappily again. So Rosa stopped pursuing the subject. It'd probably be faster to ask whoever lent Maria the umbrella during dinner, rather than ask Maria herself. Or maybe it was Beatrice. Father, please at least join us for dinner. It won't be a family conference otherwise. Krause's entreaty could be heard. However, that voice seemed to be resigned to the fact that nothing said would be heard. Kinzo-san, won't you at least come out for dinner? All your children have gathered here to see your face, haven't they? Silence, Nanjo. So, the bishop won't work. One move too short. Apparently, Kinzo was so focused on the final battle of his long-lasting chess match with Nanjo. Kinzo's brow was wrinkled as he continued to glare at the game board through his spectacles. Krause's voice didn't reach his ears. Kinzo-san, I'm hungry myself. Why don't we go down and eat? Go by yourself if that's what you want. Let me consider this next move for a bit longer. We are going to finish it tonight. Otherwise, it's doubtful we'll finish it before the world ends. Nanjo rose from his seat, hoping that this would prompt Kinzo to do the same. But Kinzo's eyes never left the chessboard. He knew well that Kinzo always displayed a blind concentration when it came to chess. But he'd never seen Kinzo concentrate as hard as this. It was almost as though Kinzo was telling the truth. That there would never be another chance for them to continue their contest if they didn't finish tonight. It seemed no matter how upstandingly he called out to Kinzo, it wouldn't reach the latter's heart. Nanjo gave up and headed to the door that Krause was still banging on. The door to the study opened. Krause was taken aback, thinking maybe Kinzo was actually coming out. However, Nanjo was the one who appeared, and Krause let out a sigh of relief. Dr. Nanjo. His father... I'm sorry. I couldn't be of service. Right now, this room is Kinzo-san's whole world. Nanjo shook his head with a completely defeated expression. Krause raised his fist once more and banged onto the door, shouting, Father, can you hear me? We're heading down now, but please join us anytime you feel like it. All of your children are waiting for you. His voice was very loud, and he was making a racket, pounding on the door. There was no way it wouldn't reach Kinzo's ears. Well, it certainly was reaching him, but he ignored it anyway. However, unlike the time he'd been called down for lunch, he didn't fly into a rage. By now, Kinzo was calm at heart. almost as though he had taken on a philosophical view and turned himself over to fate. Neither dinner nor the faces of my children interest me in the slightest. I will only leave here if Beatrice is resurrected, or if I am chosen as a sacrifice for the key. The demon's roulette has already started spinning. What meaning does dinner have at this point? As though the painfully loud banging on the door completely failed to enter his hearing, Kinzo silently thought about his next chess move, still in this philosophical state. Very interesting. Speaking of dinner, I need to finish this next bite. Hold on real quick. Sorry about that. I end up needing to go to the bathroom afterwards. Oh, wait, hold on. Nope, I had to go back down anyways. I got a package downstairs. Sorry. Sorry about that. I forgot my package was coming today. And it was my tea. My sleepy time tea. So maybe tonight I'll finally get a good night's sleep. Anyways. Sorry for the long wait. Let's continue on, shall we? Nice rain ASMR, though. Just as always, Kento's speaker couldn't have been seen anywhere in the dining hall. Rich people and their dinners. Kraus, wearing a bitter smile, returned with Nanjo. Father says he's still not feeling well. He truly regrets missing this once-in-a-year opportunity to sit together with his gathered family. Eva and Rudolph sniggered. Given Kenzo's personality, there was no way he'd show sign of regret. And none of his relatives showed any regret at his absence. Then, why don't we start dinner? Goda, begin. Certainly. Well then, if you will allow me. When Goda told the family conference dinner his biggest time to shine of the whole year, he nodded with a broad grin. May I ask who lent Maria an umbrella? When Rosa timidly cut through the silence of the dining hall, everyone noticed. An umbrella? What's this about? A short while back, Maria was in the rose garden when it started raining, and she apparently borrowed a white umbrella from someone. I wanted to thank them. It wasn't one of us. After you left, we moved to a different room and had a friendly chat that whole time. That's right. Even after that, the siblings had a real friendly chat. The word friendly fell awkwardly from Hideyoshi's lips. So even those who hadn't been present could tell the conversation hadn't been a pleasant one. At the very least, it couldn't have been me, Eva, Rudolph, Hideyoshi-san, or Kire-san. We were together the whole time, even after Natsui-ni-san and Rosa-san left. The whole time until the meal started. Ni-san went to the study with Genji-san to call father. At that time, the rest of us went straight to the dining hall. So it wasn't one of us. Could it have been a servant kind enough to lend an umbrella? So, was it you, Goda-san? I have been in the kitchen the whole time preparing. My sincerest apologies. Goda looked slightly disappointed about missing this chance to show off. I had to blow my nose. At the time, Shannon and Kumasawa appeared, pushing a serving cart loaded with the hors d'oeuvres. Oops. I paused my mic. At the time, Shannon and Kumasawa appeared, pushing the serving cart loaded with the hors d'oeuvres. And yes, I actually learned that word. I had to learn it the hard way. Then, what about Kumasawa-san or Shannon-chan? Yes? Has something gone wrong? Because Shannon had come in part way, she shrank back, mistakenly thinking that the others were searching for the one responsible for some error. It isn't like that. It started to wane when Maria-chan was alone in the rose garden. After that, someone lent her an umbrella. Aunt Rosa said she wanted to thank that person. Oh, Beatrice. Maria, her mouth a thin line, said the witch's name in a small voice. Aunt Rosa explained the situation one more time. As she did, Kumasawa-san cackled. Oh, it wasn't us. Shannon-san and I were preparing the rooms together, so we did not go outside. Yes. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be of assistance. Preparing the rooms? What do you mean by that? Because of the rain, we thought it would be troublesome for all the guests to return to the guest house. So the servants were ordered to prepare the guest rooms inside the mansion. Really? How thoughtful. You can tell. You can tell she just really wants to stir things up. Okay. Yes, it certainly would be rude to chase us out in the rain. Could you give it a rest? Yes. After receiving the order from Madam, Kumasawa-san, Kanon-kun, and I prepared the rooms. Then it became time for dinner, so Genji-sama ordered Kanon-kun to go to the guest house and summon the children. Yes. So, did Kanon-san find Maria on the way to the guest house and hand her the umbrella? Oh, wrong! The person who had actually received the umbrella denied it. Rosa was troubled. All she wanted to do was give a word of thanks to the person who had lent the umbrella, but couldn't find them. And she thought asking like this with everyone gathered for dinner would work immediately. Then, was it you, Natsui-san? I'm sorry. After everyone's friendly chat, my headache was so bad that I had been resting in my room. Therefore, I did not go outside. Then who was it? George-kun and the kids? That can't be right. No, it wasn't us. We were watching television in the guest house the whole time. Actually, we thought Maria had just gone back to the mansion with you. Then Kanon-kun came, and when he asked whether Maria was with us, that's when we realized she wasn't in the mansion. I mean, if it were me, I'd have grabbed her hand and pulled her under a roof before giving her an umbrella. Rosa was completely baffled. I would be too. One by one, the relatives and the servants denied that it had been done, even though it really wasn't something anyone would need to hide. So by process of the elimination, the number of remaining candidates wasn't large. Of course, it wasn't me. Right after it began raining, I visited Kinzo-san's room. I was playing chess with him until now. Which means it also wasn't grandfather. Wait a sec. Isn't it starting to get a bit weird? Who's left? Then, who was it? Genji-san? Huh? Wait a second, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm searching for some culprit or anything. All I want to do is, as a mother, thank the person who gave Maria an umbrella in the middle of the rain. Giving an umbrella to a girl loitering in the rain was something to be praised, not hidden. Despite that, no one raised their hand. Why not? Everyone started whispering about how strange this was getting. Calm down, Rosa. Why don't we just ask the person who was lent the umbrella? That's what everyone had been thinking since the beginning. They were all scratching their heads at why she didn't just ask Maria, who had been given the umbrella. However, Rosa bit her lower lip. After all, she already knew how Maria would answer if she was asked. Of course! Rudolph-kun here's got it right. Maria-chan, tell your uncle. Who lent you the umbrella? Beatrice! The dining hall was wrapped in silence for an instant, but it was soon interrupted by a burst of laughter. I see. So, Beatrice, the witch of the forest, felt pity and lent an umbrella. What a lovely story. Rosa, there you have it. Rosa couldn't believe it. Even though she just wanted to say thanks for the umbrella, why did everything have to be so clouded in smoke? Ooh, just like Uncle Kraus said. Beatrice let me borrow it. Ooh. Isn't that wonderful? We should all be jealous of such purity. What do you think, everyone? Kraus was laughing with a face that was clearly mocking. But Maria was so overjoyed, apparently convinced by her claim, was believing it. How did that work? Does that mean a witch really appeared and lent her an umbrella? Jessica asked in a small voice that wouldn't carry over to Maria, who was sitting right across from me. Has Maria ever been the time to make jokes? If we heard that kind of story pop out of my old bastard's mouth, we would have just taken it as another joke. However, it's hard to explain it away like that when Maria said it. This was getting pretty unnerving. No way. She's always been frank and serious. She's the sort who believe any joke, even normal people could instantly tell were lies. I never even heard her cracking a joke. Aunt Rosa probably knew that better than anyone. It appeared that because of this weird situation, she had no idea what was going on anymore. So, if Maria says she borrowed an umbrella from Beatrice, does that mean it really was Beatrice? We're talking about Maria here, so I can't think of it as some kind of metaphor or joke. It might be best to take what she says as a face value. Then what's going on? Are you saying Genji-san or someone put on a fancy dress from the portrait and gave Maria that umbrella? I'm not sure about that. Actually, that's what I want to know. Jessica shrugged jokingly, but her expression didn't completely match her attitude. Once the hors d'oeuvres were set out and Goda showed off his vast store of knowledge, the meal began. A couple of casual chats broke out here and there, but they seemed somehow distant. And the meal ended up being so quiet that you can't ignore the sound of the rain sneaking into the hall. Must have been that good of a meal. So, if no one really was the one who gave Maria the umbrella, that could only mean the witch is real. The only question is, why? What did she have to gain from that? And more importantly, what was Beatrice trying to accomplish by going over to a little girl when it was Kinzo who tried to summon her. Like, there's some things that don't really add up. It seems like we're putting 2 and 2 together and we're getting 5. You know what I mean? Somehow, there's an underlying equation that we can't really solve. And it seems like nobody has a real answer at this point. So, it's safe to assume that it really is Beatrice, or some kind of stalker who's acting like Beatrice. But even that doesn't make sense, because if it was some stranger or stalker, they probably would have kidnapped Maria instead of just giving her an umbrella. Then again, they wouldn't have many places to hide since it's a small island. So that begs the question, is Beatrice real? We're about to find out. Kumasawa and Shannon, pushing the serving carts, ran into Genji and Kanon on their way back to the kitchen. Oh, it's Genji-san. Did you lend Maria-san an umbrella? An umbrella? What are you talking about? Well, I heard that when it started raining, Maria was alone in the rose garden. It seems she borrowed an umbrella from someone there. But we don't know who it was. It wasn't me. After all, I actually thought Maria-sama was in the guest house. When Battler-sama first found her, she was already holding a white umbrella. My apologies, but that was not me either. Then, could it actually be the master? Both in the dining hall and right here, everyone had stated that they hadn't done it. That left only Kinzo, but maybe he went walking down the corridor for some reason, when he just happened to see Maria-sama in the rose garden without an umbrella. The master is not particularly fond of Maria-sama. I agree. I can't imagine that for Maria-sama's sake, he'd go out of the trouble of descending the stairs with an umbrella. Oh my, how troublesome. Does that mean the one who lent Maria-sama an umbrella really was Beatrice-sama? Kumasawa laughed just like the relatives in the dining hall who had laughed it off. She couldn't think of any other way to break through the smoke veiling the current situation. Just then, the crisp sound of hands clapping twice ran through the hall. They all turned around once to see Goda coming out of the dining hall. Okay, everyone. When serving a dinner, proper timing while setting the table is essential. Please immediately see to setting out the soup. Genji, the women are in the middle of an important job, so please don't get in their way. Kanon glared at Goda for being rude to Genji, a person Kanon respected. Genji, realizing this, patted Kanon once on the shoulder as a warning. Kanon reluctantly turned away and returned to his expression to normal. Obey Goda's instructions. Hurry and prepare the dinner table. Come now, there's no time. Don't dawdle. Hurry! Goda grabbed the serving cart from Shannon and steadily pushed it towards the kitchen. Then please allow us to return to the kitchen. After all, Goda-san's temper is very short. Please excuse me as well. Kumasawa and Shannon left. Only Genji and Kanon remained. Through the window, the darkness of the rainy night could be seen, along with the occasional thunderbolt. Genji-sama. Did Beatrice-sama really return? I don't know. Shall I inform the master? That is not necessary. If she truly has returned, she will eventually appear before the master of her own accord. Furthermore, she's a fickle person. It would be pointless to report to the master, only to find out that she does not appear. I wonder if this means that master's ceremony has already begun. Probably. However, that has nothing to do with furniture like us. We must continue the favor we received from master until our final moments. Yes, that is furniture's duty. So they actually believe she's real. So they all knew about it. Very interesting. The thunder crashed once more. Except for those instants when the lights lit up the sky, nothing could be seen out the window but the darkness of the night. Just as humans rule when the sun is up, those that are not human rule when the sun is down. Uh-oh. The darkness of the night now surrounded Rokenjima was ruled by another master, not the Ushiromiya family. Did this master take pity on Maria when she was alone and being pummeled by the rain in the rose garden, lending her an umbrella? Cannon looked out at the rose garden's lights, dimly visible beyond the window. The dim lights weren't enough to illuminate the surrounding area. Looking at those lights felt like making eye contact with a witch, and Cannon forced himself to avert his eyes. If he didn't, it felt like his eyes would be absorbed by that light. Spooky. Can the weather change how people act? You know, funny thing is that there have been studies that claim that certain weather patterns can really change someone's personality or their habits. So I wouldn't really be surprised if it really can make the way people change and their actions. You often hear stories about how things like atmospheric pressure can influence people's moods and physical health. For some time now, everyone had been struggling to clear the gloomy atmosphere. But any conversation was quickly cut off, and in the end, the dining hall was simply filled by the sound of the rain. Dessert was some kind of chocolate cake accompanied by a pear sherbet. Ooh, that actually sounds good. I don't usually eat pear-flavored food, so that would be interesting. Goda enthusiastically explained the recipe as soon as the final dish was presented, but I quickly forgot the details. The guest of honor, grandfather, was absent, the weather was horrible, and the identity of the one who lent Maria an umbrella remained a mystery. When dinner ended, no one even felt a little bit refreshed. It was too late now, but I realized painfully that taste wasn't the only important part of a meal. The whole atmosphere was also critical. Goda-san, the supposed conductor of this musical piece called dinner, did his best to enliven the place, dropping little jokes left and right, but apparently not one of them succeeded. After taking orders for after-dinner coffee, tea, and orange juice, he left for the kitchen. As soon as he disappeared, Uncle Kraus spoke. My. What a waste that dinner Goda worked so hard to create has met with such a gloomy atmosphere. Yes, absolutely. I just feel like nothing would taste good today. Oh? I'd like to know why you feel that way. Later on, I'll do all I can as your older brother to help you cheer up. Eva grimaced slightly. I'd already heard she wasn't on good terms with Uncle Kraus, but it was pretty clear now. When I noticed that my father and Aunt Rosa was also grimacing. Apparently, there was something besides the weather troubling all of them. Both Aunt Eva and my dad aren't looking too happy. Really? I don't think so. I also had Aunt Natsui, who had been sitting right next to me, but she seemed to be in a bad mood as well. She snapped back as if to say absolutely not interested. Well, adult conversation got a little complicated. It isn't something kids like you need to worry about, Battler-kun. Isn't that right, Natsui-san, Kirei-san? Uncle Hideyoshi laughed as he spoke, but without his usual brightness. So I could vaguely imagine just how complicated their adult conversation had become. On top of that, even Aunt Natsui and Kirei-san, the people he had directed his comment, ignored him as though they hadn't heard anything. I didn't know what kind of conversation they'd been having while us kids were away, but it reminded me of how Dad said he had stomach cramps when he arrived at the mansion. The family conference might have been a playful reunion to us kids, but it was definitely different for the adults. After Uncle Hideyoshi's comment was ignored by the other adults and an awkward silence fell over the room, Kirei-san spoke up. We were talking about how the kids' careers would turn out, such as what lies in your future, Battler-kun. Will you just drift on to college? Wouldn't that be a little disheartening as a starting line for a long race of life? Hey, wait a sec. Kirei-san, if you start talking about something like that in the middle of a meal, it won't digest well and we'll all end up getting constipated. That's right. We were talking about Battler-kun's and Jessica-chan's careers. You gotta think seriously about the future. Hideyoshi hardly agreed as if they had really been talking about that, but that was probably wrong. Kirei-san had obviously been trying to change the subject. However, if Kirei-san had determined that this was the best course of action for now, then she was probably right. Taking this into account, I cast aside my suspicions as to the cause behind Aunt Eva's and Dad's bad moods. At long last, the serving cart returned, filled with coffee and tea. Kumasawa-san and Shanan-chan served it to everyone. Goda-san then explained that this concluded tonight's meal. If only the mood had been a little more cheery, it might have been the best dinner of my life. It was a shame that this best of dinners couldn't have been under the best conditions. Ooh! George Oni-chan, is dinner over now? Over? Yes. With this, dinner is finished. Don't be rude. Stay in your seat and calmly drink up. Maria looked like she was really excited by the occasional crashing thunder. Maybe she wanted to finish quickly eating and run over to the window. She had been fidgeting for a while, waiting for the meal to end. Some people are afraid of thunder, while others find it interesting, and Maria was apparently one of the latter sort. When I was 9 years old, I was terrified of thunder. It always felt like a bomb was dropping down every time it crashed. Even my babysitters would be a little concerned that I was afraid of that. After a while, I started to become a little indifferent to it, but that image always stuck to my head. Sometimes they say that when you experience something as a kid, you don't really care so much about it later on as an adult. So I feel like that's what it meant. Having myself a little Coke to wash down my meal. Although I suppose If I were a fancy gentleman like all these other folks, I probably would round off the meal with an Earl Grey with just a hint of honey. Although, to be fair, I do enjoy a nice English breakfast every now and then. Ironically, I like to have English breakfast at night. Really helps clear up my sinuses. Therefore, when she heard from George Aniki that dinner was over, a huge smile broke across her face. She then rose from her seat, took out her handbag, which she set neatly under her seat, never having left it even when she was eating, and began fishing around inside of it. No one seemed particularly concerned by this behavior. What's that? Where did you get it? George was the first to notice it. As he spoke, Battler noticed too. They saw that Maria was now holding a beautiful Western-style envelope. Oh, shit. And it has the family crest on it. On the front of the envelope, the Yoshiramiya family crest, the one-winged eagle, was done in gold leaf. Furthermore, the fact it was sealed with dark red wax made it clear that it wasn't something Maria could have brought as a prank. Maria-chan, what is that? It seemed that Natsui had also noticed the strangeness of the envelope Maria was holding. Her voice sounded too serious for someone admonishing a small child, so the relatives around us finally noticed it too. What happened, Natsui-ni-san? What is that? Maria, where did you pick that up? That envelope has Kinzo-san's... When Nanjo muttered that, even us kids could understand why everyone seemed to be a frozen solid. The envelope that Maria held was one of the Yoshiramiya family head's custom-made envelopes for private use. In other words, it could only mean one thing. This envelope contained a message from Kinzo. Oh? What is an envelope like that doing here? Now this is an interesting thing to come jumping out at us. Just let me have a peek. Ooh, no way. I'll read it. I was told to read it to everyone. Uncle Hideyoshi tried to snatch the envelope out of Maria's hands, but she protected it as though hugging it and didn't let go. Hideyoshi-san, you can't use force against a child. Maria-chan, where did you get this envelope? Ooh, I got it from Beatrice when she gave me the umbrella. She told me to read it to everyone after the meal was over. I'm the witch's messenger. Messenger? The almighty witch of the island sure likes to mess around. Badler tried to joke about it, but nobody laughed. I wonder what's written inside of it. Maria-chan? Ooh, gonna read it. Ooh. Maria casually opened the envelope. It was sealed only with wax, so she only had to remove the sealing wax to open it. That sealing wax fell on the desk. Hideyoshi hastily picked it up and stared fixedly at it. He then set it in the center of the table where Natsui, Kirei, and Nanjo stared at it. Imprinted in the sealing wax was the one-winged eagle, which was the Yoshiramiya family crest and also Kinzo's personal crest. This is the family head's personal crest. I know it from the letters I've received from Kinzo-san before. Without a doubt, this is his wax seal. But aren't there several things in the mansion bearing that crest? For example, if there was some kind of stamp for the wax seals, couldn't some other than Kinzo have used it? No. Kinzo-san would always use a ring on his finger. his proof of the Ushiro-miya family headship when he sealed the wax. This shape and complex design is definitely Kinzo-san's seal. That's not necessarily so. Anyone in the family must have received a letter from father at least once. We can't eliminate the possibility that someone used that wax as a model to create a fake seal and pass themselves off as father. I agree with Aniki. No matter how much the seal resembles Dad's, we can't prove that it's the real thing. So it doesn't prove that this envelope came from him. I absolutely agree. I cannot approve of arbitrarily deciding that this letter came from father based solely on a wax seal. Dr. Nanjo, couldn't you use a bit more discretion with your vague words? I apologize. It was not my place to speak. One after another, all the siblings from Kraus on downwards rejected Nanjo's statement, saying that the envelope Maria held wasn't necessarily from Kinzo. They were afraid. They feared from the bottom of their hearts that Kinzo's intentions were written in there, and that it might be some announcement regarding the inheritance that would be decidedly unfavorable to them. Maria, the person who gave you that envelope was the same person who lent you the umbrella, right? Ooh. I don't know what ooh means. Is it true? Yes. Ooh. So in other words, the witch, Beatrice, gave Maria-chan that envelope along with that umbrella? Ooh! Maria nodded forcefully. I agree with my husband. It's a dubious letter handed over by some suspicious person. It isn't even worth reading. There's nothing wrong with just reading it, right? Battler said it to Jessica in a small voice, trying to act tough. But Natsui heard him clearly and glared at him with threatening eyes. And then, Beatrice told you to read it after the meal was over, right, Maria? Ooh. It's okay, everyone. This envelope didn't come from Grandfather, but from Beatrice. Regardless of who actually wrote it, why can't we just hear what's inside before we decide? That's right. Even if Father didn't necessarily write it, I'd still like to know what's written inside. Maria-chan, I'm sorry I tried to take it from you by force earlier. I apologize, so will you read it aloud in front of everyone? Maria, read it. Ooh. As all the relatives stare fiercely at Maria, she spread the letter open with a rustle. Do you think it really came from Dad? It's impossible. Whenever Father has announced something to give us to the past, he would always send Genji if he didn't do it directly, correct? I cannot believe that he would use such a joke-like approach. That's right. Maria, a messenger? That definitely doesn't suit Father's tastes. Rosa, could this be Maria-chan trying to surprise us by putting on some kind of show? Maria isn't really a kid who'd be capable of something so thoughtful. Gonna read it. Ooh. The words came out of Maria's mouth, but for some reason, her voice seemed different from usual. Everyone went silent. Uh-oh. Welcome to Rokenjima, members of the Ushiro-miya family. I am Beatrice, the alchemist for this family, employed by Kinzo-sama himself. That's crazy. Quiet. I have served him for many years in accordance with our contract, but on this day, Kinzo-sama has announced the final suspension of that contract. Therefore, I ask that you acknowledge my resignation from the position of family alchemist from this day forth. How foolish. What nonsense. I can't stand to listen to this. And now, there's one part of the contract that must be explained all to present. I, Beatrice, lent Kinzo-sama a vast quantity of gold under certain terms. One of the terms specifies that all the gold is to be returned to me upon the termination of the contract. Furthermore, I am to receive everything the Ushiramiya family as interest. Ridiculous! It's been ridiculous from the very beginning. So it's basically one of those things, right? Doesn't it just sound like one of those contracts with the devil? The contract has expired, so they come to collect the interest. Is she trying to grab some retirement money from her old age or something? What a cheeky witch. Battler-kun, now isn't the time to joke around. Battler made a face as if to ask, if I can't make fun of this, what can I make fun of? Some of the adults' faces were pale, while others looked dazed. After hearing this, you may feel as though Kinzo-sama has been savagely ruthless. However, Kinzo-sama did append to a special clause to the contract so that you would have a chance to preserve your wealth and honor. If, and only if, that special clause is fulfilled, I will lose my right to the gold and the interest for all eternity. A special clause? What is it? Special clause. Beatrice retains the right to retain the gold and accumulate interest upon the termination of the contract. However, if someone is able to discover the hidden gold of the contract, Beatrice must abandon these rights for all time. The collection of the interest will proceed shortly, but if any of you fulfills the terms of this special clause, I shall return everything, including the portion that has already been collected. Furthermore, as the first step in this collection of Kinzo-sama's debt, I have taken possession of the Ushiramiya family's head's ring, which signifies the passage of the Ushiramiya family headship from one individual to another. I ask you confirm this yourself by examining the imprint of the wax seal. Are they trying to claim that that's the meaning behind the seal? That father would relinquish his ring is unthinkable. Kraus stared at the seal wax as if trying to burn a hole through it. Eva and Rudolph were doing the same over his shoulders. Come to think of it, when we were playing chess, I did have a strange feeling that something was missing from Kinzo-san's finger. Dr. Nanjo! Don't say something so carelessly just because of a vague memory. We can't prove its authenticity here. Only by asking Father directly can we determine whether he really handed over his ring and whether this letter tells the truth. That's right. It's just as Kitty-san says. Do you really think Kinzo-san would tell you? After all, that person thought sometimes surpasses the bounds of common sense. No matter what happens, it's still nonsense. In the first place, the illusion of the gold itself is one of Father's tricks. I've already heard enough talk about that gold from the rest of you. But this is the witch speaking, right? About how the inheritance and all the assets will be handed over to the one who finds the gold, right? So maybe Beatrice-sama is Father's legal advisor or in charge of his funds. We can't possibly trust some strange person who entrusts such a suspicious paper to a child. Aniki, we need you to be frank with us. Is it possible Dad's assets are being managed by someone you don't know? No, that's impossible! As the family head's representative, I control all of Father's assets. It should be impossible for anyone to do as they please without them knowing it was me. So, this must mean there are some assets you don't control, right, Kraus-Nissan? How foolish! Such assets couldn't possibly exist. Oh, but there is such a thing. An asset of Father's that you don't control. There is no way such a thing could exist. No, it does. It's Father's, no, Beatrice's hidden gold. Let's keep it simple. In short, Dad had trusted a confidant that Aniki doesn't even know about. Furthermore, this person has always been in charge of watching and managing the gold. Or it could be some eccentric rich person who offered him a loan with rules like a devil's contract. Could it be that this confidant called Beatrice is trying to test which of Kinzo's children is the most worthy to be financed by her gold? Kire's question was one that all the siblings wanted answered. Upon reflection, they realized that Kinzo's strange epitaph had hung in the hall beneath the witch's portrait for quite some time, and while it had long been whispered that whoever solved the puzzle would receive everything, no one had ever clearly stated it. It was just something that everyone had hoped might be true. And right here, right now, the thing they hoped for had been clearly stated in Beatrice's letter. It clearly specified that everything of the Yoshiramiya family would be given to the one who found the gold. Kinzo-sama has already publicly displayed the location of the hidden gold with the epitaph under my portrait. The rules apply equally to all who can read the epitaph. If you discover the gold, I shall return everything to you. Tonight, I ask you enjoy your battle of wits with Kinzo-sama to the fullest. I sincerely pray that this night will be both intellectual and elegant. Beatrice the Golden. Father, I know you can hear me. Please respond. The door to Kinzo's study was being violently, harshly beaten over and over again, like a percussion instrument. The yells coming from the other side belonged to Kraus, Rudolph, and sometimes Eva. It was the siblings who were trying to intrude upon Kinzo's study to question him about the truth behind that mysterious letter. Kinzo was eating. An elegant tablecloth was set over his desk, and the fabulous dinner that had adorned the table down in the dining hall was reproduced here. Kinzo continued his meal in silence. Shannon, taking away an empty plate, looked uncomfortably between the door being pounded on and Kinzo's face. Everyone is calling for you, but what should I do? Leave them. God and my meals both hold silence as a virtue. Should I silence them? There's no need. It has not even reached my ears. Kinzo enjoyed his food, apparently indifferent. Genshi quietly lowered his head and took a single step back. As he did, Kanon, who stood in reserve like a shadow behind and to the side of Genshi, opened his mouth. Maria-sama apparently received a letter from Beatrice-sama, so I imagined they wanted to test its authenticity. Has she started already, then? Come, Beatrice. I have no shortage of coins to be wagered. Shall we enjoy this night to the fullest? I don't think I'll lose. Your smile will be mine for all eternity. If I could see it one more time, I wouldn't regret losing my wealth, my honor, or even my life. Well then, the roulette has begun to spin. Which pocket will the ball fall into? Noir, Rouge, or House Takes All? Come. You may begin, Beatrice. I'll show you the power of miracles once more. Oi! Again with the glass breaking. It's 10 o'clock. So that was a thing. The strange letter that the witch had entrusted to Maria wiped all memories of dinner from our minds. Maria was repeatedly barged by questions by Aunt Rosa and the other parents, and became increasingly ill-tempered when they refused to believe her. If we kids tried to butt in, they'd probably ignore us. Our parents were all stirred up, firing back and forth about the gold and the distribution of assets, and completely forgetting that we were even there. I'd already guessed they'd been talking like this in the shadows, but I hadn't thought they'd been so blunt. It gave all of us kids a considerable shock. I would imagine it would. From what we could overhear, all the parents wanted more money as soon as possible. Back and forth about grandfather's inheritance, back and forth about the distribution of gold if it was found, about advance payments and cash. It was so despicable I could hardly bear to watch, even though one of them was my own father. It looked like Jessica felt the same way. We left our seats without being asked to, and went to hang out somewhere well away from our parents. I get it. Now I totally see why grandfather hates coming down for meals. I'm so disillusioned with our parents right now. All that about money and the inheritance. How can they act so like that right out in the open? Well, I'm already completely disillusioned with my old bastard. There's no way I could think of any worse of him. That's exactly the same for me. Still, that freaking shocked me. Shot me to the core. Jessica looked down at the floor, irritated. She was always talking about how bad her parents were, but maybe she hadn't really felt that way deep inside. The depths of Jessica's shot made that clear. You're all minors being supported by your parents, so you might not understand. But getting money is neither a simple nor a pretty thing. I won't try to force you to understand right now, since you're still kids. But even so, I want you to realize that your parents are just doing their best in their own way. Oh, great. George Anaki's gotten all mature. George Nissan, I know you're working hard as a full-fledged member of society. But does that mean you turn into a shameless, greedy vulture like our parents whenever you start talking about money and assets? If it were my own benefit, then no, I wouldn't want to do that. However, when your family and your employees, your subordinates and their families are all counting on you, there are some times when you must fight. I hate that kind of fight. That back and forth about grandfather's inheritance makes me want to puke. Jessica pretended to spit violently. That harsh reaction made the depths of her pain very clear. Let's stop talking about this. All this about grandfather's hidden gold, property, and inheritance is our parents' problem, not ours. I agree. At the very least, I think children have a duty to be considerate and stay out of their parents' way when they're talking together. Sounds pretty boring. Everyone knows the phrase, adults are filthy. But we had now seen that for ourselves, and that really did give us a considerable shock. George Anaki was pretty much an adult, and I'd already been disillusioned with my dad, so the shock wasn't big for us. But Jessica seemed to be taking it hard. Apparently she'd received a bigger blow than I thought. She always talked badly about her parents, but it looks like she hadn't changed at all on the inside. Even now, she's still a pure-hearted, delicate person who can't doubt others. I'm sure she respected her parents as much as anyone else does. And then her parents started raging about going money, inheritance, my money. Right in front of all the other parents and children. It's no surprise she received such a shock from hearing that. You know, they say that more money leads to more problems, and this is definitely a clear-cut definition of that. Sometimes it's easy to forget that all this is only possible because of your family. There's a risk to everything that they take. So, them worrying about money, bills, what's in it for their future, for their children's future, for their employees and such, it can be hard to take in as a kid. Which is probably why your parents wouldn't want you to see something like that. It really can bring out the devil in you. As for how to proceed that, it's not an easy thing. They say money can't buy happiness. And while that's partially true, it's also partially wrong. Because, yeah, money makes you greedy. It makes you hungry for more. But when you really break it down, money can really lead to the things that can make you happy. And when I say happiness, I'm not talking about luxury items like mansions, cars, solid gold furniture, large plots of land, and stuff like that. That's just luxury needs that really don't need to exist. When I say happiness, I mean being able to live comfortably. A nice house, some really good food on the table, some decent furniture, being able to go out with your friends, take a vacation, stuff like that. So I can get why Jessica, Battler, and even Maria probably wouldn't want to be like that. George has no choice but to fall in that line. He's already the adult of all four of them. So he's already setting himself up for disaster as it is. I think part of him realizes that you have to be the bad guy if you want to be successful. Which is something that every business venture I have gone to often tells you. And really, the wealthiest of people, very few of them are actually happy. So, with that said, with Battler and Maria, I try for them. But Jessica, George, and the others, it's hard to say. The servants are a different story. They all pretty much relinquish themselves as furniture. They are servants. To them, they're not people. They are property. Anytime the master rings a bell, they immediately rush to it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And while that itself can be depressing, that's also the only world they know. That little moment that Shannon was allowed to be with them at the beach having a picnic, that was probably the most fun that Shannon had in years. It's easy for you to say that the servants are being treated poorly. When you really think about it, though, you can't really argue that when someone tells them that they give them room and board, access to food, shelter, a reasonable wage, all of that, and being able to live on an island in a giant mansion the size of a castle. Hard to argue that. You could give some benefit of the doubt that they are just doing their best so that they can keep this kind of life. But still, with that in mind, the way you should consider it is that money, it's a complicated blessing and a curse. And when it comes to big money, it's definitely, how do I put this? A gift from the devil. I know that's probably not a popular opinion, but that's my 2 cents on the issue. But then what do I know? I'm a bartender, right? I live off of tips, ramen, and booze. I have no aspirations of being rich. I was going to be a depressed food server till the day I die. Jessica-chan, please don't start hating your mother and father. I won't ask you to understand them, but at least don't hate them. I get it. Just leave me alone for a bit. 6 years ago, I would have kept taunting Jessica even after she got all dejected. But I guess I really have grown over the last 6 years. I realize it'd be better to leave Jessica alone right now. Jessica suddenly looked away sulkily and left the parlor. She probably wanted to be alone for a while. I could do nothing but wordlessly watch her back as she left. Come to think of it, I wonder where Maria-chan went. She's probably pouting right in front of the portrait. Maria truly looked up to witches, and she'd expect that coming in direct contact with Beatrice and receiving that letter as proof would surprise everyone and make them really happy. However, the adults had doubted its authenticity, thoroughly bombarding Maria with questions and refusing to accept her story. Even for me, it wasn't hard to imagine how much that must have hurt Maria. We couldn't speak to Maria or Jessica. In the end, George, Aniki, and I abandoned ourselves to the sound of the falling rain in the dark of night. I wonder what's happening with that typhoon. Maybe there's something about it on the news. George Aniki started walking over to the corner of the parlor where the television was. He hadn't called me over, and I really couldn't have cared less where the typhoon was on the sea now. So, without going over to the television, I loitered about around the window. The wind hasn't picked much from here, but I wonder if it's horrible over the sea. I did hear about a severe storm warning on the weather report. Kirei-san. I take it those big talks between the adults are going smoothly, yeah? She seemed to catch the sarcasm. Kirei-san shrugged. I wonder if that stomachache of a discussion will continue all night. It's not going to be fun. Well then, please enjoy playing vultures to grandfather's property as much as you like. I feel sick. I'll agree with you on that. If I could just slip away like you, I'd do it. Unfortunately, I can't. Even when I'm not allowed to speak, we spouses have it pretty rough too. Kirei-san took a deep breath and smiling bitterly. That's right. They probably wouldn't let Kirei-san speak, since she was only married into the family. Still, as Dad's partner, she had no choice but to stay by his side and support him. She's probably had to bear this full brunt of this mental pressure more than me. I wasn't going to apologize, but realizing that I'd spoken too harshly, I cut the sarcasm for the time being. So how does it look? Are they still stuck on the topic of the mysterious witch Beatrice? More or less. Those 4 siblings are always piling up secret agreements when they come together to discuss the division of grandfather's inheritance. They're saying that some unknown 5th person has appeared and is trying to make things even more complicated, and there's no way they'll make for a peaceful conversation. Just when you think they're snarling at each other, they'll set up a common front. Natsui Nissan's not the only one getting headaches. On the one hand, they all want a larger portion than the other siblings, so they're all rivals. But on the other hand, they don't want 1 yen to be snatched up by anyone other than the siblings, so they're all allies. I hadn't been told the details, but the siblings were apparently discussing how to protect their shares under various situations. Setting up ceasefire agreements and rules to prevent anyone from getting an unfair advantage. Even preparing to resort to legal action if absolutely necessary. That they would go this far to preserve their shares was so beyond disgusting that you just had to acknowledge their resilience. So basically, Beatrice is like an assassin sent by grandfather. He probably wanted to scare the hell out of his children for talking about the inheritance without him. Who is this Beatrice, I wonder? If everything she claims is true, then she's a mystery figure that no one knew about until today. And she also knows about grandfather's hidden gold. On top of that, she was even entrusted with the head's ring. She must have been trusted by him. Well, obviously I don't think a witch riding around on a broom. But there's no doubt she's a mysterious person who's earned the right to be called a witch. If only Maria-chan would go into more detail about that. Everyone's been smothering her, even though she's just a little girl. They really scared her, and some things they might have asked now can't be asked. I wonder if those people ever even read The North Wind and the Sun. What we do know is that Maria received a letter from a person who took the name Beatrice. She sure is shy for a mysterious person, entrusting Maria with a letter and hiding it away even now, when she could have just appeared and talked to us directly. Hey, Battler-kun. Do you really think a person called Beatrice actually exists? Who knows? Doesn't it really seem like a false name? Like she's grandfather's representative, so she was given permission to take the name from the witch of his delusions? No, that's not what I meant. Right now, there's a total of 18 people here on Rokenjima. Do you think there's a 19th person? Are there really a full 18 people on this island right now? Wondering about that, I began counting on my fingers, and it really did come out to that many. Do I think that a 19th person exists? What exactly do you mean? Just what I said. The person who lent Maria that umbrella supposedly wasn't one of us 18. So isn't it natural to assume that a 19th person exists and that this person lent Maria the umbrella? Well, yeah, it sure looks that way. Then where exactly is this person now? At the very least, she must have been on the island when it started raining. And, ever since that time, the weather has grown progressively worse, so taking a boat out would be pretty much impossible. In that case, that person must still be on the island, hiding from the rain somewhere. And without any of us spotting her. True. We've all been randomly prowling around all over the mansion and the guest house, but no one has bumped into a 19th person. But this island is huge. There might be other places to take shelter from the rain, other than the mansion and the guest house. About this time, I began to realize what direction Kide-san's suspicions were taking us. Kide-san was denying that a 19th person existed. Beatrice was one of us 18. In other words, she thought someone we knew well was tricking us. If Beatrice is who she claims, she surely would be the most honored of guests. The most honored of confidants trusted by father. There's no way grandfather wouldn't give that kind of person a warm reception. She surely would have been ushered into the mansion. However, we haven't seen anyone like that. Wait a second, isn't this line of reasoning a bit too hasty? Sure, no one spotted this person, but that doesn't mean you can deny the possibility that a 19th person exists, right? Maybe, for some reason, they landed on the island stealthily and have been hiding ever since. It's what they call a devil's proof. It's easy to prove that something exists. If this Beatrice appears in front of us all and says hi, then it's settled. But it's impossible to prove that there's no 19th person. Yes. Badler-kun, your way of reasoning isn't bad. In our current situation, there isn't enough information to either accept or deny that a 19th person exists. But if you spin the chessboard around and think that way, we can deny the existence of a 19th person with near certainty. Spin the chessboard around was one of Kirei-san's favorite phrases. I've been influenced by those words and used them myself from time to time. When you get stuck trying to find a move in chess or shogi, then by spinning the board around and looking at everything from your opponent's standpoint, you can often see a strategy that'll give you an upper hand. It means turning things around and putting yourself in your opponent's shoes. Huh. You know, I kind of like that saying. I'm going to use that. You see, let's say a 19th person called Beatrice actually exists. That person must have managed, without being seen by anyone, to stealthily arrive on this island and remain hidden ever since. Maybe they had some reason, okay? In that case, why did they go all of the trouble of appearing before Maria and handing her a letter? It really was a contradiction. If they had some reason for hiding themselves, then they should have stayed hidden this whole time. But even so, they had appeared openly in front of Maria. Then... Wait, Maria said it herself. She said the witch made her a messenger. Maybe that's because Maria was the youngest and looked the most obedient. Why would they need a messenger? If they just wanted to deliver a letter to the family conference, they could have just mailed it. If they mailed it to each of the 4 siblings, no one would be able to ignore it. There was no need for this person to carry it themselves and secretly deliver it by hand. Yeah, that does sound pretty weird. In the first place, if Beatrice existed and wanted to make her presence known to everyone, then she could have just openly presented herself to all of us. Despite that, she chose the vague method of appearing through a little girl called Maria-chan, and only gave us a vague impression of who she was. Contradiction. Let's go a little deeper, shall we? She appeared in front of Maria, trying to give us the impression that a 19th person existed, and yet she still hasn't appeared before us and is hiding somewhere in this very moment. Think about those contradictions. You got to keep these things in mind when you spin the chessboard around. In short, if a person wants to leave us with the impression that Beatrice exists as the 19th person, what might their goal be? If this person wanted to hide, then they wouldn't have made their presence known. And if they wanted to show themselves, they wouldn't have used the roundabout approach of entrusting someone with a letter. Which means it's simple. Beatrice is one of the 18 people. That's why they want to create the illusion that there are more than 18 people. The 19th person was revealed so spectacularly. If someone were to profit from this, it wouldn't be some 19th person in hiding. It'd be one of the original 18 people. Of course, this reasoning is still full of holes. If you turn it over even a few of its premises, it'll simply fall apart. But I'm almost completely certain it's correct. This is starting to feel pretty creepy. It really is. Someone lent Maria the umbrella and handed her the letter. Supposedly, none of the 18 did this. And yet Beatrice was hidden amongst those 18. What was this person planning, hiding their true form and pretending to be Beatrice? I suspected it might have been Maria-chan play acting. But the contents of the message were extremely complicated, and it's hard to imagine Maria-chan writing that herself. However, I can't deny the possibility that Maria-chan is working together with someone. Wait a second. Maria's a 9-year-old girl, right? What could she possibly be planning, and with whom? And what about her straightforward, over-honestly obedient nature? Yes, I also understand what kind of person Maria-chan is. But that's exactly why I think it's possible. That girl's a dreamer who can't help but look up to and blindly accept the existence of witches. So if a person appeared in front of her and claimed to be the witch Beatrice, Maria-chan would happily swallow it up, I think. So you're saying that if someone disguised themselves by wearing that fancy dress from the portrait, tricking Maria wouldn't be that hard? Of course. With that reasoning, all of us women would become the primary suspects. Anyway, who did Maria-chan encounter? Learning the details of that question would be the best key to solving this riddle. R-U-N-er. That is a great profile name. Thank you for the follow. Hope you're enjoying your stay. Welcome to the Crimson Sakura Lounge. But this key has been firmly locked away inside Maria-chan's heart. Everyone denied the existence of the witch without listening to her, barraging her too much with questions about who Beatrice actually was. She probably won't open her heart to the adults now. In the dim hall, in front of the portrait of Beatrice, Maria was sobbing. No one believes I met Beatrice. Even though I showed them the letter Beatrice gave, they still don't believe. Anyway, Maria-chan's holding the key. The key to whether Beatrice is one of the 18th people or a 19th person. Maria-chan, stubborn, right? When that girl gets angry, it's pretty hard to make her feel better. Battler-kun, I think a kid like you would be better at cheering her up than an adult like me. After she's feeling better, try asking. I know you don't care about all this back and forth about the inheritance, but don't you find this Western Mansion mystery situation exciting? Who in the world is this person who gave Maria-chan the letter? It makes your intellectual curiosity ache. You're actually pretty tough considering you're still excited after being dragged all through the endless money talk. Adults can be pretty amazing. I shrugged exasperatedly. But I did notice something. Kine noticed how dejected I was after overhearing our parents' turbulent discussions, and was probably trying to clear the air. At the very least, I'd recover enough to voice my complaints. She wasn't my real mother, so I've never felt like calling her mom. But it did make me think she's a real adult. Hey, brats, so this is where you were. Kirei, you really took your time fixing your makeup, didn't you? Think I'll make a habit of going out and to touch up my makeup, too. I'm sorry. A woman's makeup takes a long time. So, how has the discussion been without me? I'm sure everything was all peaceful and harmonious. Kirei-san poked the weak spot under my arm with her elbow. We decided to take a break to cool our heads a little. It looks like we'll be here all night. Makes me want to cry. His way of talking hadn't changed, but he couldn't completely hide his fatigue. I couldn't say I was sympathetic, but he looked pitiful compared to his normal, energetic self. Still, that rain's just awful. I really don't want to go back to the guest house. It looks like Natsui-Nisan has set up some things so that we can spend the night here in the mansion. What'll we do? We don't need to decide until you're done, right? If you're running so low on energy that you can't return to our room, then we can take them up on their offer. You're right. We can think about it later. What about you, Battler? If I stayed, I'd just get in the way. I'll be nice and go back over there. I see. Will you go back soon? I don't know. It'd be lonely to head back by myself. I'll gather all the kids and we'll head out. Okay. You go do that. Also, Battler, you won't be going to sleep that easily tonight, right? Yeah, I'll probably be up talking with the cousins. Sounds like we'll be up all night. Is there a problem with that? I see. If you're still awake when the adults' discussion is over, I want to have a little talk as a family. A what? That doesn't sound like you. Apparently, Kirei-san was thinking the same thing. What are you talking about? She asked him in a small voice. It looks like Kirei-san didn't have a clue what Dad meant either. I also want to talk to you about it, Kirei. I'll tell you later, so don't ask now. Please. I don't know anyone who neglects the concept of family as much as this old bastard. And now he's saying we're going to have a talk as a family? Both Kirei-san and I couldn't help but get wide-eyed. Don't look so terrified. I'm the one who should be terrified. After all. At that point, he swallowed his words for an instant. Even though putting on airs of importance wasn't much like my dad. You're freaking me out, Dad. Everyone in our family's gathered here now, right? Don't make a big deal out of it and spit it out. Tonight, I will probably be killed. The timing on that. What do you mean? There was a huge crash of thunder. It must have been really close. Dad's expression, brightly illuminated by the lightning, was burned into my eyes. Dad's face, which always looked so sure of itself, and which always wore a taunting expression, was strangely frail in a way I couldn't really explain. It was so worn out that he looked like a different person. What? What are you talking about? That doesn't sound like you at all. I agree. What happened? You look so timid all of a sudden. It's not like you. I'm gonna go fix my makeup too. Don't follow me. Dad turned away weakly. After that, only Kirei and I were left, still wide-eyed. What did he say? Tonight he'll be killed? You don't think that mysterious letter scared him, do you? He's been watching too many serial murder movies. Kirei didn't answer my light-hearted words. He continued to stare at my dad's disappearing back. Battler-kun, when you told Rudolph-san to spill the beans right away, he left without telling us anything. Even though he had said something to say to both of us, he didn't answer to you. Why? Spin the chessboard around. What do you see? Well, when he said he wanted to talk but then couldn't, that's a contradiction. What? Can you see something by looking from my dad's perspective? Yes, I can see something. He wants to talk about something. However, he doesn't have the courage to bring it up. So he actually means chase after me, talk to me, and ask me about it yourself. By saying, don't following me, he actually means the opposite. He actually means, follow me and force me to answer. Seriously, what a spoiled brat. What? Can you really call that reasoning? That's ridiculous! Can great private and police detectives deduce the emotions and feelings between men and women? They can't, right? Figuring out the feelings of the opposite sex is an even more advanced art than exposing the tricks in difficult crime cases. If you ask me, romance novels have a much deeper mysteries than masterpiece mystery novels. I see. Is that how it is? I'll stand alongside that spoiled brat. He normally loves to bluff, but tonight, he's completely tired out from that heated discussion. He probably wants someone to lean on at the moment. And responding to the need is the role of his partner. Sounds passionate. Then I'll leave that old bastard in your hands. Yes, leave it to me. I called out to Kirei-san's departing back. Huh? What? I wanted to say thanks. Thanks to you, my gloomy mood has cleared up a lot. That's good. Communication is important. After answering me with a wink, Kirei-san followed after my dad. Natsui could be found in a dimly lit hallway. Now and then, the thunder would crash, but this had no effect on her expression. She looked completely worn out. The discussion that had just taken place between the relatives in the dining hall was repeating itself inside of Natsui's mind. Beatrice had proclaimed that in addition to the gold, all of the inheritance and property of the Yoshiro Miya family would be given to the person who could solve the riddle. In other words, she planned to undermine the absolute guarantee that Kraus, as the oldest brother, had to succeed the family head. Originally, the other siblings had absolutely no chance to inherit the headship. To them, this proposal by Beatrice was extremely desirable. It was obvious that they would accept it. There was no need to play some clumsy detective game. Natsui knew that this so-called 19th person, Beatrice, couldn't exist. Naturally, Beatrice was nothing more than a fictional character used to pass a message that Kinzo had written himself. As proof, Kinzo had remained stubbornly neutral as to the letter's authenticity. He was completely ignoring these reckless claims that he shouldn't be able to ignore, that he had given up the head's ring. In short, Kinzo had wordlessly admitted that the letter held his own message. Most likely, one of the servants had given Maria the letter. Kinzo had probably worked out an elaborate plan where the dress from the portrait would be prepared. And someone, probably Shannon, would have been made to wear it and deliver the letter to the umbrella. By doing that, he could make it seem like the witch from the portrait actually existed. No. If anything, that alone was proof that Kinzo was behind all this. In that case, it was the same as Kinzo trying to butt in on the siblings' private discussion. Then Kinzo, by announcing that he'd give everything to the person who could solve the riddle, could weaken Krause's overwhelming advantage. Now it was certain. Kinzo had eavesdropped on the siblings' discussion in the parlor earlier that day. So he had known how Krause had staved off the attack by the other three. And to make the scales of the battle go back to the balance, he sent out this strange letter which benefited Krause's rivals. He was trying to push this crazy theory so that Rosa, who had a weak position among the siblings because of her age, would join with Ava and Rudolph. Then, with a 3-to-1 advantage, they'd be able to overwhelm Krause yet again and make the ridiculous theories get accepted by force. And by doing that, he gave them the power to resettle what once had been a nearly decided conflict. They had now started repeatedly pressuring Krause to pay them a large amount of money. Using the condition that all of the siblings would guarantee Krause's position as the successor, talk about advance payments was being brought up again, despite having been rejected once. Of course, even without the story about the hidden gold, the Yoshiro-Miya family's store of wealth was vast. That store of wealth alone was more than enough. Even if the hidden gold was buried forever, along with Kinzo's death, there would be more than enough to satisfy. Therefore, even if they weren't interested in the gold itself, Kinzo had managed to instill the lifelong fear on the off chance that someone found the gold, that person would be granted the headship. And this kind of Achilles heel would definitely be taken advantage of by someone sooner or later. The only person with this fatal weakness was the successor, Krause. The other siblings have found, no, they had been told by Kinzo about something that only Krause could lose, and they had thoroughly taken advantage of that. Natsui, as Krause's only ally in his painful position and as his wife, wanted to fight alongside him. She kept trying to explain to him that the existence of the gold itself was a farce, and there was no need for him to compromise. Krause had always told Natsui. He had told all of the siblings. He always said that the gold was nothing more than an illusion created by Kinzo. Therefore, Natsui had believed it as his wife, and had supported her husband on that foundation. Even so, Natsui's words didn't reach Krause. Even though Natsui had fought so hard and lent all of her strength, he continued to fight by himself, and was trying to compromise with the other three siblings. Natsui sadly and weakly wondered why she could be not any use to him, then started to get angry. It had happened when everyone decided to take a short break to cool their heads. Natsui had flared up again against Krause. Enraged, she had asked why she could not be useful to him. He had then told her that he wanted to talk about something and invited her to a room that she was normally not allowed to enter. That room had been sealed with a heavy-looking padlock, and just looking at it, it had given her an uncomfortable feeling. There is no need for you to worry about anything said by those three, or even this suspicious person who calls herself Beatrice. After all, the gold is just a ruse created by Father. There is no way something like that could be found. Your position as the successor is a solid fact. What are you afraid of? Kraus removed the padlock on the door. He then motioned for Natsui to enter. Enter. What is this? There's something I want you to see. I've never shown you this before. Natsui timidly opened the door with a dubious expression on her face. It was pitch black. She searched for a switch to turn on the lights, but since this was her first time in the room, she didn't know where it was. Kraus entered behind her, pushing her in, and when he closed the door before turning on the lights, the two were swallowed up by darkness. Only the sound of Kraus locking the door rang out through the dark. What are you doing? The lights! I am turning them on now. Wait. Just as he said that, when Kraus pushed on a switch in the wall, a flickering light turned on and lit up the room. That is... Natsui had her breath taken away. The room had no windows, and at a glance it appeared empty. In the middle of the room was a small round table that had been set, and the lights brightened only that table, as if it were the leading part in a play. On top of the table, a red tablecloth of elaborate design had been set out covered with dust. And on top of that, something about the size of a grown man's arm had been set down. That something took Natsui's breath away. It does exist! It's a gold ingot of incredible purity. Without this, no one would have believed in the legend of the gold. It was an ingot of solid gold. Even in the faint light, it sparkled with a noble and dignified glint. This is not a proper ingot. I don't even know whether it was cast inside or outside the country. It took a high level of skill to make the purest of solid gold ingots. And in order to verify that purity, it was standard to have the original foundry and the name of the bank that guaranteed it imprinted on the gold. However, this ingot didn't have that kind of seal. This mysterious gold bar had come from an unknown foundry. Look here. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a bar of gold. Natsui, following Kraus's words, timidly approached the ingot. Right there. Kraus pointed at the surface of the ingot. Natsui concentrated on that section. Huh? Right there was the thin imprint of the one-winged eagle crest. Natsui's breath was taken away once again. That's right. This is the legendary ingot that Father said he received from the witch. That the president of Maruso witnessed and allowed him to select a random to take back with him. that gained the trust of the fixers in the business world. I had used all possible means to find it. I found it before the other siblings could. How could... Then, the legend of Father's gold is... It actually exists. The gold that Ushiromiya Kinzo received from Beatrice actually exists. It's impossible! So it really does exist! Natsui was shocked. Kraus had always said that Kinzo's gold was just a fabrication, so she had believed it as his wife. However, the reality was different. Since he held definitive proof, he had been more certain than any of the other siblings that the legend of the gold was true. Because of this, Kraus was deeply frightened at the possibility that someone other than himself would find the gold he'd failed to find, casting him everything. But to Natsui, this truth was more than enough to split open her heart. She had thought that as Kraus's wife, she should be his closest confidant, which is why she had selflessly supported him. And yet, he had hid this fact from her until today. Why? Have I been so undeserving of your trust? That has never been my intention. There was simply no need to tell you. Is that all a wife means to you? Calm down. Becoming passionate easily is one of your bad habits. You're the one who's making me like that, aren't you? I've been supporting you as a wife ever since I married into this family. For your sake, I threw away the family I was born into, and I've been offering up my heart and my body to serve you. And in return, this is what I get? How could you? Kraus grimaced, looking annoyed. His expression effectively communicated how much he disliked this part of Natsui, even if he didn't say it aloud. It doesn't look like I will be of any use to you anymore. That's fine. I can resolve the troubles of my siblings by myself. I don't need your help. That's wrong. This is the Ushiromiya family's problem. It's true I'm not permitted to wear the family crest on my body, but I am still your wife. Even so, are you saying I'm not capable of helping you? Are you? I especially wouldn't want to risk getting you involved. It would probably make your headaches even worse than they are now. Take a rest for today. The siblings will deal with the siblings' problems. It has nothing to do with you. That is all. Damn, that's cold. His own wife. A dull headache tormented Natsui. No matter what medicine she took, no matter what sense she burned, it wouldn't heal. In fact, simply wandering alone through the dark corridors and listening to the sound of the rain seemed to be a better cure. I may be Natsui, but I was never Ushiromiya Natsui. I have been despised and treated as a borrowed wound, and insulted when I couldn't even fill that role. Even so, I've tried to properly perform my duties as a wife. But even now, even my husband has rejected me. I have done my best raising my daughter, as if it were the last job left to me. However, I have no release from my anger and sadness, and they cause me to subconsciously strain that relationship too. Because I've always been so excessively strict in Jessica's education, she dislikes me thoroughly. She despises me for having no interest in anything but grades. There is no longer anything I can do for the Ushiromiya family. No. That's no good. Despite it all, I must help my husband and beat back the schemes of the other greedy siblings. The family head won't be around much longer. Eventually, Kraus will succeed as the head. And the next successor will be Jessica. Strictly speaking, the man who enters the family by marrying Jessica will become the next head, but it all comes to the same thing. I have to make Jessica an excellent successor, whomever everyone will accept as worthy to take over the Ushiromiya family. In the days to come, that greedy Ushiromiya Eva will probably be plotting to find some fault with the main family. And if all goes as she plans, Jessica will be dragged down from the succession, with George set up in her place. It is regrettable, but George is a man, and even more, has matured as a person. Compared to Jessica, who was right in the middle of her rebellious period, and whose grades are slightly below average, it can be seen at a glance who is more fit to succeed as the head. So in order to secure Jessica's position, I need to turn her into an excellent person. After doing that, I want her to find an excellent husband, worthy of the excellent person she will have become. A wonderful man who will truly accept Jessica and stay with her throughout all of life's joys and sorrows. Was Natsui trying to entrust her daughter with fulfilling some desire of her own? Natsui thought back to the days when she had no choice but to marry into the Ushiromiya family because of that unavoidable fate. She had tried to block that from her memory. She had consciously forgot it and had actively attended to the life she's been given as Ushiromiya Natsui. And in doing so, she had built up a new life. But just now, it felt like all of that had been casually rejected. How should I think as I live my life? I do not know. Natsui helplessly rested her head against the glass of the window. The glass, which was cool thanks to the raindrops beating against it, felt somehow refreshing, even though it should have been emotionless. Right then, it seemed to have been the only thing that could understand Natsui. At that point, even if someone had appeared, Natsui intended to pay attention to them. But she did pay attention, because it was her beloved daughter. Oh, it's you, Mom. What the heck are you doing in a place like this? Thought you were a ghost. Just like always, her words were rough and not at all like a girl's. Instinctively, words of rebuke rose to Natsui's throat. However, their strength gave out and they didn't escape her lips. Jessica, forgive me, but my headache is awful. Please leave me be. I see. Jessica was seeing her mother in a position of feebleness for the first time, so she was considerably disconcerted. Until just now, she had been filled with contempt for all of the parents, including her mother. But now those feelings had been completely swept away. Her mother's utterly exhausted face had wiped them all out. In its place, the words George had told her flowed back up in her mind. Our parents are doing the best in their own way. And because their families are counting on them, they can't afford to keep everything pleasant and have a healthy responsibility to fight. Maybe her mother had been standing around in this dimly lit hallway because no one had tried to understand that part of her. Jessica hated her mother. so she had no intention of speaking kindly to Natsui just because she was looking a bit frail. So when she attempted to speak kindly to her mother, she had to clench her fists and gather up the words from deep in her heart. It sounds like you've got your hands full with that meeting thing. It has nothing to do with you. Please go somewhere else. Is your headache bad? Should I go get some medicine? You don't have to trouble yourself. Please leave me alone. Natsui wasn't being cold. She just wanted her daughter to go far away so that she wouldn't have to bump against Natsui's short temper. But there was no chance that Jessica would realize this. Okay. Jessica hung her head, looking sad. Seeing that expression, Natsui recognized the kindness that Jessica was trying to muster. She gave her head a small shake to drive her away her own unkind feelings. Then, I'll leave. I'll be with the other cousins so I don't get in the way of the adults. See you later. Wait there. She called to Jessica, who was trying to leave and looked lonely, to stop. What? Thank you for being considerate. It isn't good of me to go to sleep and leave you alone. Don't talk like that. You'll bring bad luck. I made you worried, but I'm okay now. I will go. If I let my daughter see me this feeble any longer, I'll only make her more uneasy. With that thought in mind, Natsui left Jessica with words of gratitude and made to depart. This time, Jessica called out to her mother's back. Natsui stopped and turned around, asking what business Jessica had with her. But Jessica herself didn't know why she'd stop her mother. And for a while, she smiled wearily, muttering to herself as if hesitated over what to say. She was poking around in her pocket when her hand touched something and took it out. Hey, Mom. I was given a charm today. What was it? A charm against magic? I'm pretty sure you were supposed to hang it from your doorknob, I think. I forget. There's no point in me having it. So, I'll let you take it. It was the scorpion charm that Maria had given her on the beach. Although she heard of its various effects from Maria, Jessica's mind had gone blank, and she was barely able to even say that much. Jessica, thinking her mother probably wouldn't accept it anyway, immediately drew back the hand she stuck out, grasping the charm. So when Natsui came back to take it, she was extremely shocked. What is this? Some kind of prized toy? Well, I think it's something like that. I guess you wouldn't really expect a charm to look like a toy to do anything. But her mother took the charm from where she grasped her hand in it. Thank you. I'll take good care of it. Sometime soon, in exchange, why don't I give you a charm that was important to me when I was a child? It's not like that's why I gave it to you. But, well, if you really say so, then I will rest for now. My headache is awful. Try not to stay up too late. Sure. Natsui put the charm in her pocket and turned away. She then disappeared into the dark hall. That was a pretty bittersweet interaction. It seems like the weather will be like this tomorrow after all. Dang. This makes the good weather we had earlier feel like a lie. George Aniki and I were killing time in front of the parlor television. At that point, Jessica returned. Her face was still blank, but It looks like she calmed down a little since we last seen her. Is Maria still in front of the portrait? Nope. She just came back and she's sleeping over there on the sofa. It's getting pretty late for her after all. Looking at the clock, I saw it was a little past 10 p.m. Even if we were planning to stay up all night, it was about time to head back to our room. Well, my mom didn't have a room prepared for us in the mansion. What'll he do? I'd rather head back to the guest house. Going by what we saw of our parents, I think it'd be better if we weren't in the mansion. I agree. Feels like they're telling us kids to mind our own business and stay out of their way. Let's be good little boys and girls and do that. As we were talking about this, Rosa came into the parlor. She was looking all over restlessly, probably trying to find Maria. Aunt Rosa, if you're looking for Maria, she's on the sofa. Thank you. My, she's out cold. We must move her to a bed. If you'd like, I'll carry her over to a bed. Thanks, that would be wonderful. Are you all heading back to the guest house? Or are you going to stay in the room Natsui-Ni-san had prepared here? We were talking about that. We just decided to head over to the guest house. I see. Then, could I ask you to take Maria with you? I'd feel much more reassured if she stays with all of your cousins. Behind those words, she seemed to be concealing some regret that the adults, including herself, had deeply hurt Maria's feelings. Leave it to us, Aunt Rosa. After all, we do have an expert at comforting Maria with us. Are you talking about me? I couldn't do it myself. We'll need everyone together. That's right. Badler, weren't you the one who hit it off with Maria when you were messing around earlier? As we said this, Aunt Rosa smiled, looking truly happy. Thank you, everyone. It looks like our meeting will last until very late. So while I'm sorry to burden you like this, I'll be counting on all of you to take care of Maria. Hey, Maria, are you sound asleep? We're going back to the guest house. Maria muttered something indistinct, rolled over, and fell back asleep. It looked like she was sleeping deeply. She's really out cold. I'd hate to wake her. Right, I'll carry her. Maria's body was much lighter than it looked. I lifted her up and put her on George Anaki's back. It was raining hard outside, and Anaki couldn't hold an umbrella and carry Maria at the same time. It looked like Aunt Rosa would come with us as far as the guest house to help out. However, when she heard Uncle Krause's voice call out to her, she had no choice but to return. Now that's a problem. I have to go back now. Is everyone returning to the guest house? After we left the hall on the way to the entrance, the door to the servant room opened and Shunan-chan stepped out. It has grown very dark, so allow me to guide you. That would be great, Shunan-chan. George-kun is going to carry Maria there. Could you hold an umbrella out for him? Yes, certainly. Shunan-chan brought umbrellas for each of us and a flashlight to guide the way. As we opened the front door, the downpour was quite terrific. It looks like we wouldn't have any spare time to take a pleasant walk and enjoy the nighttime rose garden. Anaki, is she too heavy? Want me to carry her? It's okay. I can at least carry Maria-chan. I'm truly grateful. Please take care of Maria. Sure, you got it. And I guess this is good night, Aunt Rosa. Then I will see them over and return here. Yes, please. Aunt Rosa watched us leave. Maria? I'm sorry for everything. Rosa's mumbling voice didn't reach the person in question, nor any of the kids, but disappeared beneath the sound of the rain. It does look kind of scary like that. After cutting through the rainy rose garden, we arrived at the guest house. Ugh. If only I had applied for the position of Maria carrier. Then I wouldn't have gotten a chance to have Shannon-chan's huge boobs rubbing all over my arm. That is not why I did it. It's a misunderstanding. I thought if I didn't walk like this, George-sama wouldn't get all wet. Come on, quit babbling and go in. After being urged by Jessica, we folded up our umbrellas and went into the guest house. Has anyone gotten their clothes wet? I can bring some towels if you want. You don't need to worry about us that much. Thanks, Shannon-chan. That's right. We were planning to play cards or something. Would you care to join us for a bit? Huh? Who had the night shift on today's schedule? I believe we have a special schedule during the family conference. Also, I think a few alterations have been made, so I will go check. Wait, if you have to go all the way back to the mansion to find out, don't force yourself. Oh, that's alright. I can find out from the servant room in the guest house. Please excuse me for a short while. Shannon-chan gave a quick bow and went into the guest house servant room. The rest of us headed for the cousin's room and decided to put Maria on the bed for the time being. Maria was sleeping very deeply, and there was absolutely no sign of her eyes opening. For now, we get some soft drinks out of the room's refrigerator and drink those while playing cards or something. Oh. Kanon-kun? And you're here too, Genji-sama. What has happened with tonight's shift? Kraus-sama has given an order. He made some sizable changes to the shift schedule. Indeed. Goda-san now has the night shift at the mansion. Shannon and Kanon have the night shift in the guest house. Kumasawa-san and I have been ordered to sleep in the guest house. Just now, a phone call came, saying that once you arrived, you were also to remain here for the rest of the night. Huh? That certainly is a sizable change. The shifts at the guest house and the mansion have been completely reversed, haven't they? Originally, Shannon and Kanon had been assigned to the night shift in the mansion, while the night shift in the guest house, where all the relatives were staying, had been assigned to Goda, who had an abundance of experience in entertaining. Kumasawa should have been given sleeping at the guest house, while Genji should have been sleeping in the mansion. However, it seemed Kraus had suddenly ordered that schedule to be modified. The shifts at the guest house and the mansion had been all reversed, and Genji was spending the night in the guest house. It's probably because of Beatrice-sama's letter. Why? Probably. After such a mysterious letter appeared, it was only natural that Kraus-sama would suspect one of us. We served directly under the master, so Kraus-sama tried as best as he could to keep us far away from the family conference. Genji, Shannon, and Kanon were all permitted to wear the Ushiramiya family crest, the one-winged eagle, as the servants who served directly under Kinzo. Of course, since they were working for the Ushiramiya family, they had to obey anyone's order, but their only boss was Kinzo. Since only Kinzo had the right to employ them, even Kraus could not have dismissed all of his own accord. Because of this, Kraus and the others often viewed these servants as Kinzo's underlings and shunned them. In fact, Kinzo seldom let anyone other than them enter in his study. This sudden shift change was probably a clear expression of the sense of mistrust he had caused. Considering the time Kinzo had left to live, this would definitely be the last family conference before the problem of the inheritance came up. On top of that, the mysterious letter that claimed to be from Beatrice had dropped in out of the blue. Kraus definitely wanted to keep Kinzo's loyal subjects away from the table of such a delicate and important discussion. If you would excuse me, I will go rest. If anything happens, call me immediately. Our guest tonight is a special case, after all. Yes, certainly, Genji-sama. Genji nodded back, went behind a screen, took off his jacket, and slowly began to relax after a day's work of tension. The ones who just returned now, were they the children? Yes. The other relatives are having a conference in the mansion. It looks like it would drag on for quite some time. Then we got it easy. It's already this late, and there's this weather. The rest of the relatives will probably spend the night in their rooms in the mansion. Yes, probably. I'm only saying this because Genji isn't around, but I'm a little happy I was sent to the guest house, I guess. Oh? Why's that? Because you can stay away from Madam Eva-sama, those bullies? Or do you have another reason? It's not as though I have another reason. I see. Then let's do our best together with our night shift. I'm counting on you, Nissan. Just now I was asked to go to the children's room and play with them. Shannon hung her head apologetically, gazing at Cannon's uncertainly. Cannon then tried to meet her eyes and spoke curtly as he sighed. It looks like he didn't plan on indulging his sister. You can't. You were assigned to the night shift. Besides, it isn't necessary for furniture like us to respond to an invitation to play. You understand, right? Yes, I do understand. Shannon's shoulders dropped slightly. She had already expected that Cannon, a stickler for the rules, would say something like that, but she still seemed a little discouraged. As Cannon flipped through the law books, he spoke without facing Shannon. That means the children will be waiting for you. You'll have to apologize and tell them you have the night shift and won't be able to stay with them. Go and come back. Huh? Yes. I'll go apologize and come back. Shannon hurriedly stood from her seat, from her brother's mood could change, and flew out the servant room with a quick bow. As he watched her go, Cannon took a single deep breath. Genji's voice came from beyond the screen. Cannon, I will be here so you can go too. Genji-sama. Shannon was the only one called. It's not as though I was invited. That is only because you were not there at the time. If you had been, you would have been invited as well. It is good to play as a child from time to time. No. No such thing is not necessary for me. Human children may have a need to play, but we are furniture. Is that so? Nissan is also furniture. Even if she pretends to be a person, it will only hurt her later. I understand that, so I try not to get too close to people, that's all. Genji did not say anything after that. After a while, he stood up and used a pot of hot water to make powdered cocoa, serving some to Cannon as well. Alright, I think I need to call it here. My throat is in so much pain right now. Hey, Shannon. Let's put it down here. Still in episode 1, surprisingly. I really wish I can do more, but unfortunately I'm out of time. My throat is in so much pain right now. I'm gonna make a tea, and then just watch some YouTube and go to bed. So, with that said, let me send you guys over to someone really quick. I really hope you enjoyed it. Definitely interesting so far. Although, I'm probably not sure how much more there is. Considering we're still in episode 1, I have a feeling that this is going to go on for a while. We might not even get to the answers arc sometime later. So with that said, let's see who's streaming right now. I'm very tired right now too. I think I'm gonna take a nap. Alright. Let's see who's streaming. Neon Harper. You know, I used to watch them quite a few times. Yeah, why not? Let's give them a few. They seem like cool people. Alright, well, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this stream. Definitely a little long one. We went on 3.5 hours, I guess. We'll definitely do more of this tomorrow. For now, I'm just going to rest my voice as much as I can. So, hope you all will continue on tomorrow. Hope to see you all there. And as always, respect the classic.